Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, March 26, 2014 meeting of the Richmond Community Schools Board of School Trustees. I'm going to ask you to please stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business this evening is to watch a video that took place, the activity took place this week at Vale Elementary, and it's called Pastries for Parents. And so this video was produced by two seniors at Richmond High School, Angel Glickman and Jake Allen. So let's watch the video and then we will hear a little bit more about it afterward.
We are hosting Pastries for Parents. It is an opportunity for us to let parents know how much we appreciate them and the support that they give to their children and our school. This is our first time for Pastries for Parents. The idea came from Mrs. Megan Howard, a kindergarten teacher here, and she thought it would be a great way to get our parents into our school and let us show off our building, show off some of our programs. We are putting that in conjunction with our book fair, and parents can come in, get their child, go have a donut provided by Square Donuts, and then get a photo taken, a family photo that we will provide to them framed, and then visit the book fair. We have some great partnerships with St. Paul's Lutheran Church. They're here today to help us serve donuts, as well as Hill's Pet Nutrition sent several volunteers, and they're so helpful in the way that they support our school.
We are doing Pastries for Parents, and the parents are coming in and getting their children and eating donuts, and they have the option of also getting a family portrait taken, because I've noticed from talking to families they don't have a lot of those in their house, and they can also go to the book fair. A PTO parent came and asked what other things that we can do to get parents involved, and so I did a little bit of research, and I came up with the idea with the help of a couple faculty members and Mrs. Pribble.
Well, we had Pastries for Parents, and parents would come and we'd have donuts, and we would get a family portrait for $1. And my family came, and my little baby brother came too.
I'm gonna stand over there and ask her what your name is, and you're gonna say just your first name, and you're gonna tell me how to spell your first name. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So, what is your name?
Xavier.
They had this thing where the parents came, and the parents got to spend some time with the kids while they eat and get the picture taken.
Mrs. Kathy Pribble, Megan Howard, and Melissa Borf, all from Vale Elementary. And I think I was mistaken. I think this took place last week. So would you ladies like to come forward and expound any on this great idea?
Can we say no?
We would like for our two celebrities from the video to stand. We have
Oh.
Xavier here today.
Oh.
Maya.
Well, we would love for them to come forward also. And parents?
Parents, you want to stand? We'll explain it to you.
Yes, parents.
One of the things that, well, first of all, I wanted to thank Dr. Borg for coming. When I first saw him that morning at 7 o'clock and he's standing there ready for this event, I'm thinking, oh my, we've never done this. We don't know how it's going to end up, and he's going to watch either success or catastrophe. So we were really excited.
No,
that it
he
was-
really came to eat.
Okay. Well, that's okay. That's great. What do you want to add, Megan?
It actually turned out to be very successful. We had a rough estimate of about 160 parents show up, and then we were able to take 92 portraits.
Right. Good.
We had a few donuts left over, but that was okay because the staff enjoyed those later in the day.
How was it publicized? How did the parents know?
Yeah, we sent, I think starting at the very beginning of March, I think 4 weeks before the event, I sent a flyer. The next week, Mrs. Pribble put it behind her newsletter, and then the next week I sent a flyer, and the next week it was in her newsletter. And they kind of gave us a rough estimate of who was actually coming, so we knew how much to order, how many backgrounds we needed, so.
And then the night before, we did a power announcement phone call to let folks know that even if they hadn't registered, please feel free to come. We'd just love to see them, so.
And since we did not want parents to help with this because they were the guests, we appreciated our connections with Hills Pet Food and St. Paul's.
Yes.
They were a big help.
Yes.
And would one of you please put the microphone down a little bit? And we would love for the students to come forward again and tell us your name.
I'm Xavier.
And did you enjoy the donuts?
Did you enjoy the donuts?
Yes.
What grade are you in?
What shape was the donut?
Square.
Is there anything that you want to say?
I'm first grade.
You're in first grade. Oh, well, wonderful. We are so pleased to have you. And would you come forward, please?
My name's Kaya.
Kaya. And Kaya, what did you like about this activity?
I like the whole thing.
You liked the whole thing. Well, great.
Kaya, what do you think the parents learned that day?
To spend time with their children and to like donuts.
Was it fun for you to have your parents at school during
It was
the
awesome.
school day?
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
What did you enjoy showing off to your parents?
Well, everything.
Xavier, did you show your parents something that was special about Vail? What do you remember showing that
I love Vale.
you love Vail?
That says it all right now, right?
Their principal just about
Well,
in a puddle.
thank you all so very much. And parents, thank you very much. And you are all part of our Richmond Community Schools story. And thanks for sharing with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to go on now to our statement of mission, please.
I'm sorry, I was answering a different question. The mission of Richmond Community Schools is to graduate students who are literate, responsible, proficient in state and national standards, and are college and career ready.
Thank you, Susie. And our vision statement?
By 2020, Richmond Community Schools will be the highest performing school system in East Central Indiana.
Thank you, Kelly. At each of our meetings, we have a public commentary 2 times, one at the beginning of our meeting and one at the end of our meeting. And so at this time, we will have public commentary. And do we have anyone signed up?
We do. Keith Morey is here.
Keith, would you come forward, please? You have to keep it short, Keith.
Yeah,
5
Dr. Borf
minutes or
asked me to
less.
keep my comments with under 30 minutes, so I'll attempt to do that.
And no singing.
I might have to break into some dance or something. I sent out my annual, anybody want to help out, fundraising sort of final push email today, and Linda quickly responded and said, hey, why don't you come and tell everybody about that tonight? So I'm here just to let everybody know we had a meeting last night to select roommates for our DC trip. This is our first year, as you know. We talked earlier when I made the pitch. We're going to have all 3 schools involved. Approximately 60 from Dennis, 40 from Test, and 20 from Hibbard, approximately. Are the numbers that we're looking at right now. And so we selected roommates last night, and we even practiced walking on the right side of the road. Couple loops through the upstairs and downstairs. That takes a lot of practice when you're in the busy towns. We don't like to stay in everybody's way. And so we practiced that a little bit. We'll have one more meeting prior to, but we're getting down to that crunch time where our payments are due to the travel company. And there's always folks scrambling at the end saying, well, you think we can get another week to try to get these together? So we always like to help. We have a lot of folks within our building that regularly help on a yearly basis. We've got some great folks within our building, and I like to just throw it out there and give everybody the opportunity to help. So if you're interested in helping, just be assured I'm not just giving away the farm for sure. I'm making them.
Keith,
put
could
forth a
you
little effort.
back up a little bit?
Sure.
And tell everybody who's going and where you're going.
Okay, yeah. So this is an opportunity for any student that meets the criteria, their behavior, attendance, and academic criteria for them to qualify to go on the trip. The trip is 5 days, 4.5 days to Washington, D.C., to the Capitol. We'll hit Baltimore for a day, so they'll get to see Fort McHenry, where the Star Spangled Banner was written. Well, just out in the water. We won't go out in the water, but and then we'll spend a day at the beach, where they'll get to see the ocean. They do some activity rotations where they do some seining. They get to do a marsh walk. They'll dissect a squid and do some beach combing. So we'll leave Friday night, May 9th. We'll drive all night and arrive bright and early. I just got confirmation this past week from from Congressman Messer's office that we're confirmed for a Saturday morning tour of the Capitol.
Great.
So we'll all tour through the Capitol building, and then we'll see all the sites in D.C. We'll go to Baltimore the next day. We'll do the Fort McHenry, take in a Orioles baseball game, and then we'll head back for a dance cruise on the Potomac River that evening, dinner dance cruise with the DJ. And everybody's really worried about what to wear on that, so we covered a lot of that. And then Monday will be all day at the beach, and then Tuesday, prior to our departure in the morning, we go to Arlington National Cemetery. We see the changing of the guard, the eternal flame at Kennedy's gravesite, and all those sorts of things. And then we scoot on out and hope to be home by midnight.
It's a wonderful.
So if someone should want to donate to this wonderful opportunity, how might they do that?
Anybody within the school system can send donations you can just make the check out to Dennis Intermediate School, and if you have a specific school or specific student that you know of that wants to go, we can apply that as well. I do have I've had in the past teachers that say, well, who do you have from Highlander? Who do you have? And so they like to know who they're helping, and I'm happy to facilitate that as well. And you can send that through inter-office or just stop by the office there at Dennis. And really, they can take that at Hibbard or Test as well if people would like to donate at any of those, whatever's most convenient for them. But everything anything that you can do is greatly appreciated. We've done 5 or 6 fundraisers. We've got some kids really hustling out there, so.
And what would be the last day or date that people could make a donation?
Probably, we really need it to be in, well, next week is spring break, so by Wednesday of the week following spring break, that would be about the 10th or so, April 10th, somewhere around there, would be about the last date that we can, I mean, we can always put it on for things. We still got to pay for lots of little things, but yeah.
Wednesday,
for the
April 9th.
kids. Wednesday, April the 9th. Thank you.
And this is open to 8th graders,
Yep,
correct?
this is open for all 8th graders, yeah.
Well, I have my donation right here, so I would like to
All right.
make sure you get that.
I'll take it.
And hopefully, you will get lots of other donations.
Yep.
Because this sounds like a fantastic opportunity
Wonderful.
for our students.
Well, thank you, we appreciate
So-
it. Thanks for the
Good job, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks.
Well, we've already been celebrating the joy of learning, but we're going to do that some more. So celebrating the joy of learning.
We have 3 basic student groups that we would like to recognize this evening. And I think the first group that we're going to call up will be those who are representing the Business Professionals of America. We have Mrs. Wolpe, who's on the front row. Would you like to come up and announce your teachers who are here tonight, who can?
I just want to take the opportunity to say how exciting it is to share with all of you and everybody in the listening area the accomplishments of our Richmond High School students. We're very proud of their accomplishments, and you're just going to see a few of those tonight that have happened recently that we want to celebrate with you. I'm going to let Mr. Hensley introduce the teachers. This is part of the career education department, and then we'll have Mr. Bolzer follow with one of our athletes that had quite an accomplishment this past Saturday. So, Mr. Hensley?
Thank you again for letting us come over this evening. Every year we go and compete in different areas in the career education department. We have a radio television group that goes. They competed about a month ago. They did well. One of the students finished in the top 3. We also have a group that's coming up right now, Business Professionals of America. They started out, they had to go through the regionals at Hagerstown, and then they go to state in Indianapolis. This year, they're probably a little disappointed because nationals are in Indianapolis. Some in the past, some of them got to go to California, New York, etc. So I'm excited about it because I get to go this year. But at this time, if Linda Isom, Angie Witham, and Denise Selm will go up, these are the ladies that work with the students, and we're proud to say we have 16 that qualified for nationals this year, so if they'll come forward, and all the young people too, come on up. They've done an excellent job, and we look forward to seeing what we do at nationals.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Obviously, we're excited about our results from our state leadership conference that we went to back on March 16th. We took 27 students competing in a variety of business events, and I'll let them talk a little bit more about that, and qualified 16, which is the most we've had so far with our program. And a couple students have some conflicts, so they're not going to be able to go, but we are going to be taking 14 students to nationals for 4 days. And I'm going to ask each one of them to come up and kind of talk about what they competed in, how they placed. We had 5 first place state champions this year, and that's in 5 events. It was actually 6 students because one of them was a team, and I'll let them talk about that as well. And we had 5 second place finishes. As well, it was 6 students because we had another team finish second, and then we had a couple third and fourths, and so they're all qualified for the National Leadership Conference. So I'll let them come up, and then you can introduce yourself if that's okay. Is that, yeah. And what you competed in and what you placed, and then you guys can ask questions. go ahead and start. Aaron and Justin, you guys want to go first?
Hello, my name's Justin Campbell, and
I'm Aaron Bischoff.
we competed in the website team development competition. We placed second at state level. I know the event for me was not only teaching and the technical aspect of building a website and maintaining the various aspects of that, but also teamwork skills, time management, collaborative skills. That was a big one for me. My work has been mainly me, and working with Aaron. Working with Aaron really taught me how to work with somebody effectively and in a manner that was productive. Aaron, what would you like to add?
For me, this was my first time building a full-on website, so that was a big learning experience for me. I had never done something like this before, so it was fun just to be able to go in and build a website.
So, yeah, Dallas.
Well, my name is Dallas Heil. I competed in 2 events, advanced spreadsheet applications and integrated office applications. In advanced spreadsheet, I received first place in the state, and integrated office, I received second place, only losing by 2 points out of 600.
Good to know that.
The experience was very nice for me. It was refreshing to be able to get out of school for a very business-oriented event. And it was also very refreshing to make new friends within the hotel room, and everybody's laughing at me. I'm not sure why. And it was just a very good experience overall, and I'm glad I'm going to nationals.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Emily Jetmore. I competed in advanced word processing and prepared speech. In my advanced word processing, I got first place in the state, and in prepared speech, I got 4th. This is my 3rd year doing BPA, so I'm really excited to have been a part of this team and kind of watch more people go to nationals every year. That's really exciting, and I'm really thankful for this opportunity.
Hi, I'm Erica Bischoff. I competed in Administrative Support Research Project Individual, and I did not place in that at state, but I will be going on to nationals to compete in our fair trade team, and this is also my 3rd year. I'm really excited. Indy for my senior year is kind of a bummer, but they've got some cool things going on with the zoo, so I'm kind of excited for that.
So I'm Lynn Reich. And I'm Maya Van Buskirk, and we competed in broadcast news production team. And we got first place in the state, and it's just kind of a real surprise for us.
We're both sophomores, and so this was our first year both in BPA and competing in this event. And we were the first people to compete in this event at Richmond High School. And so it was really kind of new territory for all of us, but we're really happy that we managed to be successful.
Yeah, the progress we made was something that we really find something to be proud of. And so we're excited to see what we can do to improve. And I think we got first place by a margin of 12 points out of 270.
So we beat last year's first place from Plymouth, so we were really excited about that too.
Yeah, I didn't expect us.
And then Maya also competed in an individual event.
I was in integrated office with Dallas, and I got 4th place, and so I'll be going to nationals for that as well. And then I'm also doing virtual media production individual, which is like a PSA. And we don't know the results of that at all, but I'm looking forward to that.
What exactly did your competition, what was the contest? I mean, what did you do?
The contest was broadcast news, and so we basically created a television program where our first process was to kind of define news in our own way, and then we went about finding stories to talk about.
And so we had to film a 3 to 5 minute news broadcast, and then we were one of the presentation events, and so we had to go in front of a panel of judges and present our broadcast and kind of our techniques and ways of getting to the competition.
I think we had slight edge being able to use the equipment from the school, considering we used the news studio for state and the teleprompter, and that was one of our major advancements from district to state, and so just that was to get an advantage.
So did you beat out Plymouth this year?
Yes. They got first place last year, And then this year, they got second place.
Was it the same team?
I'm pretty sure it's the same team, yeah.
Oh, that's excellent.
It was four really tall guys, and then there's just me and Lynn.
Yeah, we were the only two-person all-girl team up there.
Yeah.
So we're really proud of that too.
Oh,
It was
my
definitely
gosh.
really exciting.
Yeah.
Plymouth has a national recognition for their speech teams and communications teams. That's a real accomplishment.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
We would like to.
Lynn.
Do we have one more?
No, wait,
No.
are we done?
You're don't go anywhere, though. Don't go anywhere. Would the sponsors like to add anything here?
And Erica mentioned the fair trade teams for the defending national champions for fair trade. I'm sure there will be other schools that will be looking forward to see what we have planned for this year. And they do have a lot planned, but we will be doing that Fair Trade Challenge Expo again to defend our national championship. And they have moved that, so it is on a Saturday. It was on Friday when we were down in Florida. This year it's on a Saturday, so we're hoping, like Mr. Hensley mentioned, that we can have more people come and actually experience and see these students over there. There'll be over 3,000 high school students competing in a variety of these business events, and the expo is really, it's really neat to see the sales skills and things that these professional young adults have. It's just, it's a really neat experience. So.
Well, would you like to go up there? Mrs. Morgeson and I have some certificates we would like to distribute.
How did I not notice those?
And you know, I taught at Plymouth.
We won't go easy on
That-
that. We're going to nationals too. We're gonna make the even more.
It's been a long time ago, but
I plan on being
these certificates recognize our state champions in these events. So the first one we will call to the podium is Dallas Heil.
Good job.
Lynn, is it Resch?
Reich.
Reich?
Yes. It happens.
And Maya Van Buskirk? Congratulations. Is Alexis here tonight?
She's not here. I will
Okay.
accept on her behalf.
All right.
Thanks.
And I know that Abby Lovely is not here. We got a really nice note from her saying that she couldn't be here. Emily? Jetmore. Congratulations. All right. That's it for our first place award winners, and we congratulate all of you. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much. Good job, all of you.
Thank you.
We ought to just stay up here. Go ahead.
We have one other group that also competes at Skills USA. This year, we were proud that we had 7 or 8 guys go back up for state competition this year, and we do have another state champion that will be heading off to Kansas City this summer. So if Mr. Knapp will come back up, it's out of his class again. It was technical drafting this year. They've done a lot of work for us and around the school as well. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Knapp now to tell you about Jordan. Jordan could not be here tonight. He is in a robotics competition starting tomorrow with Dallas, who is already out the door. He's heading that way too. He's going down tomorrow morning. But both those boys, there's about 6 of them that are involved in a robotics competition outside of school, and they're competing in Cincinnati the next 2 or 3 days. So Jordan informed me today he had to go set up, and he needed to get down there because he had to take care of that. So he was sad that he couldn't come, but he's just not out dishing. He's in another competition trying to win.
You might tell us what you competed in.
Yeah, the competition that Jordan competed in and won was technical drafting, which it just takes somebody, and it was actually from an Ivy Tech professor gives a test and a project that's based on industry skills and rates it and grades it, but rates it towards how it would pass to today's industry as far as drafting. So which would be something that could be produced by a company. So, and he got first. Also, Blake Dunham, who isn't here, took third as well. So,
Quite an accomplishment.
yeah.
Well, if you could get
I'll
that to
take that
him,
for him, yeah.
Congratulations to you too for inspiring such a student. Thank you. Mr. Bolter, would you like to come forward? Sure. Talk to us about the student you're showing.
Well, I am pleased to introduce you, if you have not, if you don't know her. This is Chastity Wampler, and Chastity has been a gymnast here for Richmond High School for 4 years, and she has been a state qualifier for 3 years. Last year, she finished 3rd in the vault and 9th in the all-around, and then this year, she finished 7th in the all-around, but she finished as the state champion in her vault. And if you've ever seen her do it, it is of no surprise, because I don't know anything about gymnastics, but I know it's really good. And so she becomes the first individual state champion since 2008 for Richmond High School. And I'm going to tell one quick story, which is this. In 16 years, Chastity is one of my favorite student athletes, without question. And here's why. 2 years ago, we came into school and we had a major problem. Our coach had retired, and our team, which was filled with a bunch of seniors and Chastity from the year before, in which she was a state qualifier, had all graduated. So we had one gymnast and 0 coaches. And so Chastity and I had a very serious talk, which was this. Chastity, I don't know what to do. And I have no contacts to find you a gymnastics coach, and you definitely do not want me to be involved. So here's my challenge. We can get this done, but we've got to have a team, and we've got to have a coach. Now, here's what I was trying to kind of lay some groundwork. I never thought in less than a week, we had a coach, Justine Koblenz-Boggs, who could not be here this evening, and that's unfortunate because she had a funeral to attend. But she called and said, Chastity says I should be the coach, and I'm interested in doing the job. She had coached Chastity for a long period of time, and she had convinced her to coach the team. And we had a team because Chastity recruited 6 other people to come out. And this year they finished 4th in the NCC, and no one would ever realize that it's all because of this girl right here. So this is... So she is a state champion, but her legacy will be long here. So Chastity Wampler.
Congratulations, Chastity. Congratulations, we're very proud.
Thank you.
And certificate for your efforts from the board.
Thank you.
Chastity, very few students get away from the podium without saying anything. Would you like to talk to us just a little bit about your experience?
And you also might share if you have some special people here this evening.
That's right.
I have my dad and mom, Jack and Christina Wampler.
Would you please stand?
My experience through Richmond High School Gymnastics, it was good because I had older people to look up to, and then when they graduated, I knew I had to be like them and have a role model, so it was good to be somebody to look up to and to be somebody that the people I recruited to look up to.
Well, you know, we not only congratulate you, but we're also here tonight thanking you, because it's students like yourself who provide a model for other students. I mean, it's possible at Richmond High School and Richmond, Indiana, to aspire to big things. It's quite another to do them. And you've done one, giving inspiration to others who are still aspiring. So we thank you for that, as well as congratulate you.
Thank you.
Kelly?
Is Vault your favorite event of the 4 events, or?
No, it's not.
It is. What's your favorite? Floor?
Floor.
I love watching the floor, and I watched your coach, Justine, when my daughter was a gymnast, when she was little, all the way up to being, I can't believe she's a coach now. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Aaron?
What was your inspiration these 4 years, and what are your future plans?
My inspiration is probably the Olympics. Like, I always liked watching it. My future plans, I was offered a position on the Minnesota gymnastics team, but I am not sure. I'm just still weighing my options.
It's nice to be selective, isn't it?
Anyone else? Well, thank you so much, and you can tell by the smiles on our faces that you truly make us proud.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Lots of joyful learning going on in Richmond Community Schools. And now we're ready for reports and discussion topics.
Our preschool program within the buildings is now in its 2nd year. And Mrs. Bergdahl is here tonight to give you a brief status report. We are always developing our programs, further developing our programs, but we wanted to give you a status report of where we are right now with our preschool program. So Mrs. Bergdahl, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Borf. Before I begin my report, I thought I would ask all of you if you remember last spring when it was big news on TV about IPS starting preschool for all 4-year-olds, and it was just like, like this is the first time anybody had ever really thought about this. And I was just, thinking, here, you as board members and past board members took it upon yourself as a vision and support of early childhood education back in 2004. And like, this was your vision, and really thought about supporting 3, 4, and 5-year-olds and how important it was for them to be ready for kindergarten with all those skills in order to be ready and be successful. So I think sometimes we just take for granted that we have this wonderful program that is not state funded. It was something that the board believed in enough that said, we will just support this program. And I think we've done very well with it. So as Dr. Boris said, this is our 2nd year in the elementaries. Last year we were in 5. This year we're in 6 buildings. And currently we have 308 students that are enrolled. We started out in the fall with 276. Matter of fact, last week was parent-teacher conferences, and I really want to congratulate the preschool teachers, because out of 308 students, they held 274 parent-teacher conferences. So I think they were probably very busy and very tired at the end of the time. The preschool programs who have one section preschool are Vale and Charles and Westview. And then our preschool programs that have 2 sections are Star and Fairview. And then Crestdale, of course, has 2 special ed preschool sections, and then they also have 2 general ed sections. So they really have 4 in their building. Even though we have the 2 classrooms that have the special ed students, they have more involved disabilities, because all of our preschool programs have students that have speech or seen for speech or maybe OT or something. So Dr. Borf came to me and said he was going to send a survey out to the principals to see just how preschool program is doing in the elementaries. And he had 9 questions that he was asking, basically about the day-to-day type operation of the preschool. And I think in the update that I sent you was the 2 areas of concern that we came up with were, what about professional development faculty meetings? Our preschool staff, are they involved? Do they attend? Do they have the opportunity to contribute? And then the other one was, as a principal, do you feel like you have the authority over your preschool program? So on the first one, the professional development and faculty meetings, I met with the 6 principals and we talked about having the preschool staff attend the professional development or a faculty meeting or any kind of social event or student activities. Social events, student activities after school, anything in the building that is building-wide, they felt like the preschool staff was involved in that. The professional development, they have not always attended, or the principals said if they were doing something, presenting something that they thought would be of interest to the preschool staff, they would, try to arrange for them to come. The issue has been on the Tuesday, this building's dismissed around 1:40. Our preschool staff is still involved with the afternoon session of the preschoolers till 2:30. So when I talked to the principals and wanted to know if this was going to be a problem or anything, they said, we can work this out. We don't need to change the times of the preschool. We can have coverage for our preschool staff so they can attend professional development or attend a faculty meeting. And it was not done intentionally at all. They were just trying to work it out so that they could be a part. So I think once that has kind of been brought to their attention, they're willing to do that. And as I talked to the preschool teachers, it's fine with them to attend. The second issue was whether they felt they had the authority over the preschool program, and the principal said they did on their individual preschool program in their building, but they do realize that because of district and kind of what you need to have everything kind of work together, they did feel like that there should be a district coordinator so that curriculum would stay intact, the times of the programs would stay, and if any of that at any time would be discussed to be changed, then we would bring the principals back in and we'd have a discussion with it. It wouldn't be something that would just be decided from my office. So I think it was a very productive meeting, and they're always willing. They said anytime that we want to change anything else or talk about preschool, they'd be more than willing to come back in and talk about it. They really enjoy having the preschool program, the preschoolers in the building. Whenever I come to visit, they'll say, let's go down to the preschool room and see what they're doing. So I think they enjoy having them. The one information I did want to share with you tonight was that the 2 assessments are done assessments are done 2 times a year. In the fall, they do a pre and a post, and in the spring, they do a pre and post. And what they're doing is they're looking at information, especially for our 5-year-olds, is going into kindergarten. So Mrs. Hobbs' preschool teachers have been working on an assessment piece that will be information screening and kind of end of the year where the students are. And so as 5-year-olds going into kindergarten, they will give this sheet of paper to the kindergarten teachers, and it has the PPVT assessment on it, also has the My Reading Street and then Star Reading information. And as we know with little ones, it's not always about the testing. So in that same sheet of paper, it has information on it that kind of tells about the child themselves. And it'll tell that for the kindergarten teacher. I have the papers here that we can distribute, excuse me, somewhere. Well, I did have them. Oh, here they are. I'm gonna pass those around. You can see it talks about the characteristic checklist, And the teachers, preschool teachers, felt like this was something that would give the kindergarten teacher some information about the student themselves, and then they would write about their strengths or their concerns as the student goes into kindergarten. So as we're trying to work more closely from the preschool teachers to the kindergarten teachers, knowing that how great it is for the students where they're attending preschool, they can also attend the same building for kindergarten. So do you have any questions?
So I think that when we move the preschool from the Early Learning Center into the buildings, one of the goals was so that the preschool teachers and the kindergarten teachers could collaborate. So is that happening?
I think they're working on that part. You know, I was talking today to one of the principals, and I think any program you have, any idea or concepts you might have, it takes a while to work those out. And I think, you know, as we think about last year, there was a lot of changes for our principals with the preschool K through 4 primary buildings and working through that. And I think this year it's kind of the same way. They're really figuring out how they can work and collaborate. So I think if we're talking about 3 to 4 years of seeing how this program will develop with that collaboration with the kindergarten, especially this is one of the areas I think that will help our kindergarten. And I think it helps the preschool teachers to see across the hall what the kindergartners are doing so they can prepare those preschoolers. So I don't know if you want to say that there's been a meeting of collaboration, but I know that they work together on different like concepts, and where they're teaching a theme or something, they will kind of work on the same thing. So, and they're using the same curriculum as the kindergarten.
And I would also like to point out that you'll find various levels of collaboration and cooperation as you go from building to building. And what we have communicated to all the buildings is, through the principals, is that there's an expectation that there will be tighter collaboration where there's not right now, and that where there is great collaboration, that we continue to model that.
And the other question that I had was, I have noticed that there have been several preschool teachers that have left us. And I was wondering how we're monitoring that, and how we can perhaps help so that that doesn't happen.
Yeah. The reason for the preschool instructors that had left this year was basically because they had their teaching license and they were seeking a teaching position. So that was 3 of our teachers who left, and they were they really enjoyed the program, but you know that one left to be a 2nd grade teacher. Our other teacher, who was at Vail, lives in Jay County, and so she was trying to pursue a position in Jay County as a teacher. So.
Okay, Susie?
Just a point of clarification. I think I understood what you meant, but you said that the preschool was using the same curriculum as kindergarten. Did you mean it's the same curriculum products?
It's My Reading Street, yes. It's a
Right.
preschool.
That's the clarification I wanted to make, just because
Well,
I
when we
didn't want
purchased,
people out there thinking
Right.
that they were doing
oh,
kindergarten
no,
work.
no, I'm sorry.
Some of them may be capable, though.
I bet they might be, and
yes,
probably they're
yes.
being challenged that way, but, yeah.
Well, when Dr. Parker purchased the kindergarten and with the My Reading Street, we decided that the preschool also needed to have same type, I guess, from the same curriculum, or from
And
Pearson.
I've seen it. It's a wonderful program,
Yes,
so it's a
uh-huh.
good choice.
Kelly?
Yes.
I had a couple things. I know that in the beginning of the school year, I was talking to a couple of the preschool teachers, and we had an issue with we had a large population that didn't speak English, or their parents didn't speak English. Have we made any progress in getting them some help as far as?
Well, I think our translators, I know, have worked with some of the students that are at Star and at Vail, And
So we can use that translator.
have worked with the parents, I think, to get them.
Translators that we have are paid out of general fund. We only pay one of our translators out of Title III, and so we are pretty strapped providing services to our K-12 students, but they are available to help with translation. They don't provide a lot of direct services to those students because we find those kids really pick up English very quickly just by being in those classrooms. The biggest issue is communicating with families, so they provide support there.
And then we require our teachers, they have a teaching license, right, or they have a degree?
They have to have the early childhood background. That's what they have to have in order to be
They're not
one of our
licensed teachers.
instructors, but they don't have to have a teaching degree.
An associate's degree? That's not?
No, they have to.
So when you say preschool background, can you expound on that?
Well, I think they've taken some classes to learn about early childhood. They've had some experiences with it, and so then that's when they come in to do the interview, they have to prove that they've had some type of experience or classes that they've taken, so they know about early childhood.
It's a double-edged sword. They're required to have 2 years of college or the praxis. And we do like to get those licensed teachers, but then the other side of that sword is when they get a job that pays, the contracted teacher's wage, they leave us. And so we like it when we have them, but it's hard to hold on to them.
Thank you.
Dixie?
Well, and with that, I think we need to be as careful as we can with that, because you've got kids for the first time in school and some parents with a kid in school for the first time. And when a teacher leaves in the middle of the year, it's pretty devastating to both, and it creates some tension and some worry. So I don't know how you can avoid it when they have teaching licenses and, want to move on. But I do think we should make every effort to make that a positive, good first-year experience for the child. And then I also think we need to continue with conversations about more collaboration and especially more inclusion in the school family. And I know it's difficult because of the time frame that preschool's on and the K through 4. But if we can at least have conversations and dialogue and really work at that inclusiveness of that program within the school building.
We have a preschool meeting once a month, and I invite the principals, and then they also receive a copy of the agenda and also a copy of the minutes afterwards. So if we have something that's building, like a building issue of a preschool teacher, because I send it out and ask them, what would you like to discuss? And so Mrs. Hobbs and Mrs. O'Brien have been here to attend some of those meetings, so they can have their input as well. But I really think that the preschool teachers, instructors have just done such a nice job. They were, put in a different building that they'd not been in because they'd been together for such a long time. And I think that's really stretched them. And I think it's been good for the program to kind of add some different things to. They've been able to go to Civic Hall and be a part of some of the presentations there. They've also been a part of assemblies at the school building. So all the kids go into the gym, and they've been a part of that. So I think it's helped our program grow.
Well, I think we just need to keep in mind why we moved from the Early Learning Center, where that environment was very collaborative, and they had lots of conversations and with their colleagues and worked closely together. And those environments that they're in now might not be as collaborative, at least right now, as what they had before. And we just need to keep working toward making sure that they are included in everything that we can include them in, and so that they're not in isolation.
Okay.
So we appreciate the work that you're doing, and
Okay, thank you.
keep it up.
Okay.
Jeff?
I'm glad you brought up, the 2 years ago when they were in the building themselves. But I guess as I listened to the discussion, the group that wanted to keep all the preschool students together, they were pretty adamant about this was what was best for our preschool students, and weren't very happy that the program was dispersed into the elementary. So how are we measuring the metrics, or how are we, after 2 years, how can we evaluate, how do we know we made the right decision? I mean, what are we looking at that says this is the right decision?
Well, I think we're maintaining the enrollment and we're growing. I mean, I think that's one thing. I believe we still have parents that are interested in having their children attend. We're getting ready to have the preschool rules in May, and they're preparing for, new students to enroll. I believe the principals really support having the program in their building, and I know Dr. Parker, she tracks the students who have attended preschool and see how they are achieving and progress when they get in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. She keeps track of all
I guess
that.
that's kind of my question. So
Okay.
academically, it's proving to be the right thing? I mean,
I would say yes. I think that, having been a part of the preschool for as many years as I was, that the collaboration was easier because you had a group of people and you had synergy of everybody doing the same thing. And so moving out into the schools, that synergy needs to change a little bit. So the focus, the change was harder on the grown-ups than it was on the kids, as it always is in schools. Kids are really resilient, and the kids who were in preschool, they adapted very quickly. Now, I did talk to preschool teachers today. I got to go to a shower of one of our ex-preschool people. So I spent some time with the preschool folks today, and they said, the first year was tough. We were in a new environment. We were doing something different than everyone else. But then this year has been much easier, and there's been more of a feeling of belonging this year. It just took some time, but the collaboration conversations are different. They're not, what are we going to do together? They're, what are we going to do to help prepare them for where they're going to be next year? So it's a different conversation, and it just took some time to make that switch.
Well, and really, we've only had one class go into the second year from being in the elementary, so it'll probably be a couple years before you have any kind of measurable difference.
It would be a tough thing to go to a situation where you had one building for preschool and one building for all kindergarten and one building for all second graders. The collaboration would be rich among the teachers, but the transition would be tough for the students. That's the thing we recognized with our preschool program. We had a great program in that building. No doubt about that. We were doing some nice work there, but the transition and the cross-collaboration between different levels wasn't as easy to facilitate as it is now. That doesn't mean it always happens as we want as we're moving on, but I could say that for third to fourth grade in some buildings, or second to third. So we're still working on those cross-grade collaborations. I think they're doing a great job too. If you have a chance, board members, spend some time in those preschool classrooms when you're visiting, because they are interesting to watch. I don't care what building you're in. They're interesting to watch and kind of inspiring.
Well,
we also, excuse me, we also have to remember that we're in a transition period statewide. The governor has supported funding preschool. Now, it's come with a number of other pieces, which has made it very difficult to put in place. But as we see Indiana becoming more supportive, we're going to have more resources, and we're going to have to change, I'm sure, within just the next few years, we're going to have to change our requirements for preschool teachers. I imagine that we'll be looking for some certification requirements at some point, and it will be nice to have that accompanied by some financial support as well. But the environment's changing, and we need to be prepared for that.
Thank you, Dr. Boer.
Are we ready for the next one?
We are.
We have heard two different proposals for energy savings. We heard from Performance Services, and we've heard from Synergistics. We're going to hear from the Richmond Community Schools tonight. So I'm inviting Mr. Tidrow to go to the podium and talk to us about a different proposal.
Well, thank you. I didn't get a chance to say this when they were in the House, but those two students that did the website design, you should see that website they built. It's not just a static page. It's a lot of interactive, a lot of features on there. And if you get a chance to see that, we have it on our website. We host it on our web server and so forth. But they do a lot of great work on that, and we should be very proud of that. And Mrs. Selm does a great job with them and so forth. But I didn't get a chance to say that. I should have said that earlier. But here I am I'm up here talking about on the operations side of things. And a few weeks ago, or a few sessions ago, we had those two energy management vendors come and talk about some proposals. And we thought that it'd be a great idea for us to present our ideas about how we might do energy savings using our internal resources and take a look at different things in that direction. So why are we doing this? One, the main reason is to be effective stewards of our public resources. That means let's use our money wisely, and if we can save, let's save. To get that to that point, we have to adopt a strategy of an energy management strategy plan. To arrive at that plan, we have to use data in a way that most systems aren't ready to use yet. I mean, school systems. We've been using data for the last 10, 12, 20 years at the facilities level. We can look at our historical utility usage. We can review our per square footage consumption. We can also probably look at maybe adopting one of those energy management software pieces that these other third-party firms talk about. One of them is called ECAP. Some school districts are not at the point we are. Our business and finance division collect data, even if they're not using it right now, knowing that maybe in the future we'll use that, and we have years of that data that we can go back to. And that predates, of course, myself, Mrs. Scalf, even predates Mr. Connington. So we have a lot of rich data that we look at. We collect that every week, every month, whenever we get that data in. We also need to examine our infrastructure needs and our facility uses. Are we using them most effectively? We talked about, well, we don't want to limit what goes on in our educational facilities during the day, but in the evenings, maybe we can consolidate some resources. And if we're going to have some training going on or meetings, maybe use a different type of facility and close down or shut down some other facilities so you save some resources. Again, make the decisions based on what the data shows. So as we look at the energy management plan and what it takes to realize these savings, we came up with some key implementation points. First thing, as you go through these plans that they have presented, there's no magic behind it. There's no button you can push to get those savings right away. It takes a lot of hard work, it takes some effort, it takes some planning, and it takes just some grinding. Just as they say in football, you keep your feet moving. So that's what you have to do, and you have to remind people, hey, let's look at a different use of this facility, or let's shut off the lights, or let's close down a building, or shut down some resources. Three key best practices we can look at. One is encourage that behavior changes, and that is from the top level, from maybe a district viewpoint, all the way down to individuals. And we want to talk about how students can impact that as well, how the students can help us realize some of those savings and remind us and find points in the buildings that we can upgrade or we can look at differently. Consider infrastructure upgrades is another best practice. Later on, we're going to ask you we're going to recommend a bid on upgrading our HVAC systems with some unit ventilators in classrooms. That's an upgrade that's going to help us on our energy savings. Also, look at, update, and monitor our procedures, the way we do things, the controls. For example, setting temperature settings at a different rate throughout the day, and have these as procedures so our facilities and maintenance and other operations people know what those are from a day-to-day and maybe seasonal viewpoint. Another set of points that we need to keep in mind is our must-haves, and that is we have to ensure that student safety. We're not going to shut lights off where students are or our staff. We want them to be safe, and we also want to make sure that our educational environment is unaffected through these changes. But we have to think about how much time our facilities are not being used for education and make sure that we're optimizing our resources that go into it. So after we established these points and looked at those things, we also wanted to look at specific things that we could do in our facilities. And this is one thing that we felt maybe was lacking from some of these plans that we saw. And we wanted to go over these and kind of give away some of our what we thought were important things. And I've asked Mr. Ron Mays to go over some of the different specifics. Mr. Mays?
Okay, thank you very much. And these are observations that we've actually made, and some points in here that we've reviewed, and ideas that we can come up with some energy savings. When we look at the, let me see, where do I press the button here? Oh, okay. Good. When we look at the various programs, for instance, security lighting, we'll have a phase 1 and a phase 2. And whatever I mentioned, phase 1, that's at no cost. That's something that we can do in-house, make adjustments, and so forth. When I look at phase 2, that would be funded from some energy savings that we would realize. So when we're looking at security lighting, we look at phase 1, and that's to readjust timers for the wall packs and pole lights. And what the pole lights are parking lot lighting. For instance, you could go to test school at 3 o'clock in the morning and all the exterior lights are on. And we just need a few pole lights on for security, but we don't need them all on. And we have several buildings that way that we've looked at. Also, what we would like to do, which would be a cost, would be control exterior lighting from the BAS instead of timers and photocells. And what that is, that's a program that we could rewire the lights that Glenn at Warner could sit down and program the lights to turn off and on. We could have the lights come on for various school programs, but we don't have to have them running through weekends and at night when the schools aren't being used. Then we look at the exterior envelope. We would have to cut down on air infiltration, meaning putting some weather strips around windows and doors, weather seals, and air intakes. What we're looking at air intakes, it's an automatic damper that opens and closes when a heating unit comes on. Sometimes they don't close. So you sit there and you bring in all this cold air in the room. And so that we would look at all those and make sure that they're closing properly. Wall cracks, you'd be surprised the amount of air that can come through some wall cracks, through the masonry, outside masonry, and we would do some tuck pointing. All these items add up at the end. Some of them seem small at this point. Install light sensors on all corridor light fixtures. Well, when everybody's in the classroom, all the lights are on in the corridor, and they don't need to be on. There's still enough emergency lighting that's on 24 hours a day that students can see, but once they get in the hallway, the lights come on. We already have that at Crestdale, Hibbert, and Dennis, and we have it in the classrooms and the corridors. In some areas of the high school, we have it in the corridors. And so we would bring that program on and do that in all the schools. And then you'd be surprised in mechanical rooms how many lights are left on in mechanical rooms and storage rooms when they're not occupied. Then in also in restrooms, and I've observed this, that the doors are locked to keep students out and not being used during school hours, and the lights are on. I mean, you can see the lights coming in from under the locked door. So we would work on that. In the gymnasiums, auditorium, Tutoring Center, pool areas. Here's another really good example. I traveled with the basketball team, and we came back at 11 o'clock at night this winter. Every light was on in Tutoring Center. Every light. Classroom lights, the small gym. So I said to myself, let me check the pool. And the pool lights were on. And there were no maintenance people and no custodians around. This was after 11 o'clock when they're gone, but all the lights were on. Then here's another one that reduced phantom energy, and that's what Bob always called little things in the classroom, such as refrigerators, coffee makers, microwave ovens, floor fans, and electric heaters. Now, the state, actually, fire marshal requires that there not be any microwaves in any classroom. That is a regulation. You as a board has also adopted a policy that says that you cannot have that in a classroom. Now, we want to be a little bit lenient with floor fans and electric heaters, mainly at the high school, because there are areas at high school where the classroom is unbearably hot or cold. But so before we would ban those in those particular rooms, we'll do whatever we can to try to put that unit heater and that unit ventilator under control. And so it has to be comfortable not only for the students and the teachers. The other thing that we did this last fall through Energy Indiana, we replaced all of the energy lights, non-energy lights in all the gymnasiums and put a more efficient fluorescent fixture in. And through Energy Indiana, they paid $175 of that light fixture. And in Baxter's case, their gym, we got money back because the cost of the fixture versus the installation and so forth, there was a cost savings. But we have more than recouped. They figured a year and a half when we talked about this last fall, that because the energy saving, that we would recoup any costs that we had associated with that. And now, what'd you tell me today, Jeff, that because they used a lot of money and the funds have almost dried up, that now we're only getting, let's say, a 15% rebate back, where before we got
yeah, what was
double.
what was $170 is now like $13.
Yeah. So that's a good program. Also, we wanted to evaluate the environmental services on how they clean the rooms at night. Several schools, they'll turn on a row of classroom lighting, and then they'll clean each one. And as they clean it, they turn the lights off. That's the way they know they've cleaned that room. But what we want to do is to work with them and only turn the lights on in the room that they're cleaning. And then we'll give them a form on how they can keep track of what they clean and what they haven't cleaned.
Put sensors in the room and you wouldn't have to worry about keeping track.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay, then on the mechanical operations, we would have exhaust fans, HVAC units, and unit ventilators in all areas. We would review that. Now, exhaust fans are exhaust fans for restrooms that are running 24 hours a day, and they only are required to run during school hours or during occupied times. And that's where a lot of our heat is going out into the atmosphere because those are on. We have addressed the idea of the unit ventilators in 4 schools this summer. We're changing all those to a more energy efficient unit, and it also gives us humidity control. The other big item is a night setbacks for heating and cooling. And we are looking at, and may change this, but we're looking at from 5 p.m. to 6 a.m. that the units are cut back to a certain temperature that then we can bring them back up easily in the morning. That way then we're not continuously heating that classroom. To give you an example, Elkhart Community Schools, they require 70 degrees in the classroom between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. And then in the summer, they require 75 in the day and 85 at night. And we can control all of this with our controls. It's set up with a computer in Glenn's office, and he can do that. The other thing is that Fort Wayne, Allen County schools, they put either heat or cooling up to 20 to 30 minutes before the students arrive. And then they turn it down 1/2 hour before they leave, because you've got the buildup of heat and so forth in the classroom, and so you can let that take care of itself. And they are on energy management systems, so they are realizing the savings, and that's exactly what we can do also. Then we want to evaluate some of our boilers. We have heating and air conditioning in classrooms that are not unit ventilators. They're through the ductwork, and they're called HVAC systems, and that they come from a central unit someplace in the building. At the high school has them all over the building, and Crestdale and some of these are all over the building. What we would look at there is, because the way they're designed, they cool the space, and then if one room is satisfied, it's fine. If the other room is not satisfied, then they have to run heated air through there to temper the cool air to heat or cool that space. So what we would look at then, that means then the boiler's running all summer that there's air conditioning on. What we want to look at are condensing units to where we can extract the heat off of the condensing units that's just going into the atmosphere and not have to have our boilers on. And that's how we would take care of energy conservation on that area. Also, and this is unfortunately the way it is, the way the temperature control systems are in buildings, that you have, once a manufacturer gets his controls in the building, because they don't interface with other controls, then you have him for life. A good example is our HVAC units that we've got going in the summer. The bid was $300,000 for temperature control, because he knew that nobody else was bidding against him. We could estimate that maybe it should run $200,000. So as we move along in design, we're going to design systems that we could have 2 or 3 contractors bid it, so that we have competitive bidding in the temperature control. Also, we want to make sure that all steam lines, water lines, heating lines are all insulated in a proper way. You'd be surprised that a lot of them are insulated from point A to point B, but where they make turns and curves and so forth, the insulation's gone. So we need to make sure that the pipes are 100% insulated. Then on the pool heating, we have the water temperature is the cause and effect of what we do in a pool. And the range of water temperature is from 79, and that's kind of what they run at the high school because of the swimming team, and you have a lot of more movement in the water, and that you're able to keep warmer. Versus Hibbard, we might have to run it at 86 degrees because life skill students, we featured one of the life skill students last year, first time ever in a swimming pool. Well, that particular child needs a warmer temperature of water because he can't move around. So we would adjust those, but we would design the equipment. We're getting ready right now to design some equipment at Hibbard because of condensation problems, that we'll design that in an energy efficient way to where we can keep the water 86 degrees. Then, believe it or not, on transportation, because of our committee that Rob will be talking about, we feel that there's some savings in gas. We're looking at all energy, diesel fuel, gas, whatever. But we want to analyze sporting event and field trips to where another case from experience, the bus, where we had several buses went one way, another bus went another way. One way was longer than the other, and so you don't realize some of that savings. And then also we do have some GPS technology on the buses, but we want to look at how long they sit and idle, waiting for the sporting event to be over, or whether the bus is sitting there idling, and work up with the driver some type of a schedule so that they can go to the bus and get it going prior to an event being over with, and not just sit there and idle the whole time and to keep the bus. So there is, and it's been proven in some other areas that there is a savings there. The other thing I'd like to talk about is that, again, that the program investment cost in phase 2, we feel that could be 100% funded by our savings. And that's a very realistic approach. And then once we reach those goals and reach that energy cost, then we'll reap then the savings that we're going to have, because we've already expended that money on trying to get to the point where we'll start saving. We feel that in the school year of 2014 and 15, this is very conservative, that we could have a $200,000 savings. That in school year 15 and 16, and for the next 5 years, we could expect a $300,000 savings, because we're going to introduce some savings in that first year through our costs through savings, that we could save from $1.4 to $1.5 million over a 4-year period on the energy management that we want to do. And what we show here, I mean, it's the real thing. It is happening right now as we're speaking in our buildings. Now, also a goal that is on the plan that everybody's been looking at is the Energy Star being approved for Energy Star. Now, that is a very prestigious program. If you buy refrigerators lately, dishwashers, appliances, everything's got that Energy Star seal on it. Well, we want our buildings to have that, and that is as a federal government program to have energy efficient buildings, and that we could reduce the energy consumption, improve energy security, and reduce pollution. That's what that program is geared towards. That the Energy Star has been instrumental in reducing energy use in order to realize significant greenhouse gas emissions reductions, contributing to important health and environmental benefits, the challenges of climate change. Now, this is right out of the federal book, and this, what I just read to you, was it is happening. And that in evaluating some things, we feel that right now we could apply for a Crestdale school, because we put all new windows in, we insulated the whole attic, we have energy efficient units. We'll double check the timing of the units, just like we were talking about the air coming in and air going out, and that's a building that I feel that we could get funded, get selected right away. But our goal is to have all of our buildings. Now, we know the high school would be very difficult because of the steam heat and the various problems we have over there. But that is a goal that when we are going to renovate the high school in 5 or 6 or 7 years, whenever that comes up, that we will design it to meet these energy goals.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mays. As you see, there's some great details here, some things that we're already doing. The technology department, for example, we've put together a program that will go out and shut down all of our student computers and labs. And Mr. Nash might help me out here. We're shutting down about 950 computers on average every night. Now, and we're doing that at 10 p.m. every night. Now, part of that behavior change would be, hey, maybe if you're done with the lab at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're the last class, or it's a Tuesday and you're going to end and you're not going to use that, just ask that teacher to go ahead and shut down, have the students shut down those machines. Then, and that would save us 9 hours, 8 hours of time. But at least we're turning that off, and we have them off until they need them the next time they come in, whether it's a Friday night, and we have the whole weekend where they're not running, or over the next day. So there's things that we're doing now that are going to help this energy efficiency. Also, we have a secret weapon in Mr. Mays, because he has been around the business for so long. He understands buildings. It's his passion, and we can take advantage of that. As you've seen, this list that we've compiled are things that he recognizes are things that we need to do in the buildings to make them more efficient. We're also, Mr. Mays is a smart guy, but we also need to bring in other people and maybe get other opinions and so forth. We're going to propose that we have an energy committee put together in the district to help us establish some of those policies, have maybe a professional development program going, things that we can put out to the staff in the community, students and so forth. We want to establish some guidelines for an annual report to bring back to the board. We also want to do quarterly reports to you to show you what we've done, as well as any kind of performance gains we've seen. And the bottom bullet there is establish a documented facilities maintenance management plan. And what that does is that will empower our maintenance department and personnel to know that when they're doing something in a building, it's part of a bigger plan, and they're not doing it just because they've always done it, for example. They're doing it because it's best practice. Now, what they've done all these years may be best practice, but we need to analyze that and make sure that that is the best practice. And if not, then give them some information to make a more planned approach at things. So just to carry on our suggestion for committee is here's some examples of some committee members that we would suggest. One would be at the district level, myself, Mr. Mays on there. We have also school board members that could be part of this. We have a secret weapon with Mr. Slifer, very knowledgeable on the energy management in the state. Secret of course, business and finance. Again, it goes back to managing those numbers, but also those relationships they have with our vendors, or our utilities vendors, and how they can strike deals back and forth with that. A key point here is that faculty, making sure that they're on board, making sure that the REA is on board, because when we do disrupt their environment, move their cheese a little bit, we're going to have ask them to go along with this and see that it's for their benefit as well. That's the long-term approach. If we save money, that's cash. That's cash that we can use for other facility needs, maybe technology needs. If we save $200,000, that's a cohort of mobile devices, for example, for a grade level. So just that would get us some more pieces in the hands of the students and the faculty. Students, they love giving their opinion. They love being part of things. They like identifying things in the classrooms, in the buildings, and they'd be another maybe secret weapon that we could use, and they would be very excited to be part of this, I think. Also, if we provide some kind of marketing or put a name on this, they could help market it and maybe come up with some incentives that are positive to help reduce energy usage. We'd count on the operations people, food service, Mrs. LaRue, transportation, of course, our facilities people, of course, community involvement. And back at the district or school administration level, we look at people that manage large structures, like Mrs. Wolpe, Mr. Bolzer, who's in charge of the Tiernan Center in those areas. Those would be great people that would help us out. And then if you look at maybe Fairview, That's a elementary that's used not just for educational purpose, but she invites in the Boys and Girls Club. So that's got a different need than maybe just your standard elementary. So we would ask someone like that to be part of that committee, so. That's all we have. I thank you, and we will entertain any questions or comments.
Susie?
I think this is very exciting. It sounds very comprehensive. It reminds me of my husband's workplace that was trying, actually, this was long, like in the 70s and 80s, they were really being conscientious about their power usage. And they publicized, because it was a campus with multiple buildings, they publicized energy efficiency. Well, they had a name for it. The efficient use of energy in each building, and they brought it down to a particular number that could easily be compared among the various groups, and that was just knowing that they were bringing their number down was huge. They ended up saving 20 to 25% of their energy usage once they started just making those numbers public, and so it reminds me of how we like our students to own their data and how we see that has such an impact on their achievement. I think there'd be a real direct transfer here with that.
I think so. That's good. We're very competitive, and people in the buildings love their buildings, and even the little student loved his building, so he would be very cognizant of that, so.
Oh, yeah, the kids would need to know the number too.
That's right,
So,
that's right.
We'd like to have a couple of high school students involved in the committee, and take that back to the high school, to the councils and so forth, and let them be aware, let them tell their friends that, hey, let's keep these lights off, we don't need them on today in this classroom, or walk by and the lights are off, maybe they slip in there and turn the light, or lights are on, they slip in there and turn them off.
And we have some green clubs too.
That's the buy-in that we have.
Does phase 1 and phase 2 happen simultaneously?
We hope so, yes.
Okay, and
Once we start getting some energy savings, then we'll take that and try to introduce some phase 2 items, yes.
And will this be managed by our maintenance department, or will we have a manager?
But that's a great question. It'd be managed by a lot of us, be overseen by myself, for example, but some places have not done the energy management companies. They've assigned maybe an assistant principal to go around and acknowledge places. So we think we could do that. We could capture this low-hanging fruit definitely within this first year, and with what we do now, with the personnel we have now. So,
Dixie?
I just wanted to ask a question about, since we've renovated most of our elementaries and now our intermediate schools, have we pretty much solved the problem of the hot and cold rooms next to each other? And I know we haven't at high school yet, but because that was a real issue, and you'd go by in the winter, windows are open. I did it myself. It was.
Right, and that's one of the issues that we look at is windows open, and we're going to revisit all those rooms to make sure that we are it is working properly. And to answer your question is, yes, at Crestdale and Hibbard. Now, when we did Dennis, we really didn't do much with the heating system. So we're looking at that to see how we can control that better. We do have an energy team control people that are working on the controls now, and we haven't been satisfied with what they've done to date. So at their cost, they're reworking the controls themselves. Now, this is a new control. We got a new control contractor in there, and we have a lot more cooperation than we do.
But I think we'll need to spend some money on controls in the elementaries because we don't have the zones set up right.
Because that still is an issue, and I'm really glad you're having students do that, because we had an issue at Hibbard when I was teaching there. We told the kids, we said, we don't know what to do. They kept complaining because one room was freezing cold, the other room was burning hot. We told them to just figure it out because we couldn't do anything, and they did. So, by opening certain doors and this and that, so.
On the buildings that other people are renting from us, do they take care of their own utilities, or do we?
That's part of our.
We pay it.
That's part of our
Part
rent.
of the rent.
So-
But we are going to look at that, yes.
Okay, well, I was just wondering
Well,
how.
you drive by see R Richardson, and there's windows open, no matter what the temperature is outside. So we are going to address those, yes.
Okay, I was just wondering how we were going to work with those people.
Because that's our money.
Right, and the pool at Hibbard
Yes,
and?
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I think, with the proposals that we got from the other two companies, if you looked at them in detail, you know, they're over $1 million commitment. So I'm glad that they're taking the approach of, even if we can't get to the level that we need to at the end, you know, at least for a couple of years or 2 or 3 years, we can measure the progress. And you know what, if we need to sit back in 3 years and say, okay, we're here, then maybe it won't cost us $1 million to go to the next step, because every single thing that they mentioned is what they're going to do. And one of the things that bothered me, and I have both the other presentations, one of the things that bothered me about that presentation is when they stood up there and gave us that information, none of them told you that you're going to have to spend money to save money. You didn't hear that, did you? But you're going to have to spend money to save money. So them coming forward wanting to create this and not cost us anything until they actually save the money has got to be a plus.
So if you should be chosen, when would you think that this would begin?
Well, we would recommend that we do a committee, get the committee set up as quickly as possible, and look at it over 4 seasons. We could start in the spring, go through the summer, fall, and winter, and then report back here at a yearly event. But start it as soon as possible. We've already started some of these initiatives. And that, we don't think that these other firms can't do what they're talking about. But let's take care of these things and monitor them so that they don't come in and steal some of our thunder. You know, we're already shutting things off, but Karen hasn't had time to analyze that over a year yet to tell us, oh, you are saving this. But if the company would come in, they say, hey, look, we'll go back to October, and oh, this is because of that firm. But really it isn't. It's stuff that we've initiated, and so kind of start at zero and kind of show what we've been doing, so.
What we would like to do as a next step is to bring back to you at the next meeting a tabulation showing the 3 different proposals. And based on that tabulation, we think that the choice will be obvious, but you'll have to make that determination on your own.
We write an RFQ for them to respond to.
Yes.
But to answer your one question, though, we're looking at hitting the ground the start of school year next fall. And that these items here are, most of these we can have in place. And because that's what we want to start judging at 14-15 school year. And that's how we're going to be judged to whether we can achieve these goals.
Right.
Well, thank you very much. Very informational.
Great.
Thank you.
The next item we have is discussion on transportation. Someone could hit those lights. Last week, we talked, I had a group in my office, consisted of Rusty Hensley from the high school, Tammy Rhodes, an elementary principal, Bruce Daggy, who is the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club, representing probably our most significant after-school youth service partner, Suzanne Darengowski, who was wearing the hat of transportation director, and Rob Tidrow, and I, and we talked about we identified some problems that we're wanting to address in our transportation division. One of those would be the time that elementary students are out waiting for their buses in the morning. They're out, some of them are out before 6:30. And especially at December, January, February, that can be a really long period of darkness in the morning. And we faced that. We wanted to talk about that as a challenge. Another issue that we have, though, would be the timely pickup, drop-off and pickup in the afternoon. A lot of this is due to the dynamics of our intermediate, high school, and then the elementary dismissal times. One of the proposals that we have talked about for several years, but one of the proposals that we wanted to look at was what would happen if we flipped the schedules? What would happen if the elementary started later in the morning and the high school came in earlier than they do now? And we tossed that around and tried to identify some concerns that would need to be addressed, need to be answered or addressed. And there are some significant concerns. One is that even if you started the elementary, let's say 8:30, 8:45, even if you did that, during some weeks of the winter, you'd still be picking up students in the dark. You'd also be, later in the day, dropping them off at home in the dark. That's an issue. It piece that we have right now is that when parents go to work in the morning, as it stands right now, older students are there to help the younger ones get out of the house, sometimes even helping them board the buses. That wouldn't happen any longer because the high school and the intermediate schools would be starting earlier. So there would have to be an adjustment. I know that when we probably made this transition 13 years ago, the same argument could be said at the other end of the day. I'm sure that was an argument that people were making then. One of the points that we talked about was that if we were going to bring in the elementary students later in the day, before school childcare would be an issue. We would have to find a way to offer before school childcare, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have Bruce Daggy there. Wanted to know if the Boys and Girls Club could adapt itself easily to do before school care. And his answer to that was, we would do what we need to do to answer the needs of our young people. But it wouldn't be simple because their whole day is not set up that way. Their day is set to begin at a certain point in the day and then it runs into the evening. Well, here you're taking an hour in the morning and you're still asking them to do the rest of the day. It's a personnel issue that they would be struggling to find an answer for. Not that it can't be done, but it would pose an issue. One of the celebrations, I'm on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, and one of the celebrations we had just this week was that we have renewed or have received a renewed grant to provide tutoring for the students of the Richmond Community Schools, and that tutoring happens after school. In fact, it employs some of our own teachers. That is one of the biggest concerns that the Boys and Girls Club has. If you are dismissing elementary students an hour later in the afternoon than you do right now, there would be many, many people who would not take advantage of the services of the Boys and Girls Club. Right now, many parents come approximately an hour after school and they pick up their children. Within that time, their children have already received, many of them, tutoring services. I believe that we service now over 300 students through that tutoring program. Boys and Girls Club services that many through that program. That would have to be reviewed by the Indiana Department of Education. Don't know what the answer would be on that. Exactly not sure of what that dynamic would be. What would be the later elementary arrival on our breakfast program? Yes, we could still offer breakfast at 9 o'clock or 9:30, whatever time we have. The fact is, though, many of our students rely on breakfast when they get to school at 7:15, 7:30. We know that many of our students would not have breakfast at that point in time. So the whole food services program would have to be altered. Not that that couldn't be done, but we would have to alter that. Transfer buses are still necessary, would still be necessary. We wouldn't cut our costs there. But the transfer buses, the whole transfer situation is something that I know that Suzanne and her people are looking at right now. That's aside from the fact that we would be talking about changing scheduling. Probably the most significant issue, and I know we've revisited this in the past, is that our elementary day is shorter than our high school day. So if you reverse the schedules and didn't change the length of the day of the elementary, you'd almost be releasing at the same time in the afternoon. You don't achieve, you'd fix the morning, you would have a difference in the morning, but there's almost an hour difference in the day between the elementary and the high school, elementary and the intermediate. So you might change it in the morning, but you'd end up at the same place in the evening unless you lengthened the day of the elementary. They already have a longer day than the state requires. Not that another hour wouldn't be beneficial in instructional time, but it is that much more instructional time on an already longer day. The other piece that we have, and I'm not suggesting that we have done this with great fidelity, but research says that the adolescent body and brain functions better if you can get them to school later in the day. I'm not suggesting that 8:20 or 8:30 is the right time. In fact, 10 o'clock would be more like it. But moving it to 7:30 or 7:15, 7:20 it's counter to the research right now that seems to prevail on the adolescent body and brain. 0 hour is something that we use in one case right now. We heard about that a couple of years ago when we talked about moving the day or flipping the day. What would that look like? We have a choir that has a 0 hour. Other classes could have that option too. I don't think they do, but the 0 hour, though it could still be an option, would have to be 6:30 or 6:15 or whatever, an hour earlier than the start of the day. So what we talked about doing in that committee was let's see what some of our stakeholders have to say about this. Students, parents, teachers, employers. And we're in the process of building a survey. I was hoping to have the survey begun as of yesterday, but we're still changing that survey to reflect what it is that we think we need to ask. We'd just like to hear what people have to say about this. And if we need to look at this at a deeper level, then I think we need to put a plan in place to give it the proper study, full repercussions of changing, so that a study can reveal or look at the different features. Right now, some of our talking points look good. For example, if you flip the day, what would it do at the high school? Well, it would give the high school students an earlier afternoon dismissal, which would make it possible for them to get to some of their practices and to some of their jobs in a more timely manner. We don't deny that that would be a nice thing for some students. It might also provide some opportunities for some of the high school students to stay after school for sessions that would be required for remediation purposes or enrichment, and still get them to afternoon jobs in a timely manner. That's the nice feature. For the elementary students, a later arrival might be a good thing in terms of just less exposure to the darkness. Those are nice features of a flipped schedule. But there are some other pieces that we haven't worked out that are significant. And so the survey will be going out. It will come out from our office. But it's part of the study, not part of an implementation at this point. And that's what we wanted to focus on. Questions, though, from the board?
Why aren't we looking at a flexed schedule at the high school?
We are looking at that.
Because there's high schools that, because of saving money, they've had to combine high schools into one building. They've even had two different schedules. But there's a lot of flexed options the high school can do that elementaries and intermediate schools
The
can't.
high school has looked at that. One of the problems is that you have to have takers for that. And a couple years ago, we tried running a flex schedule for students specifically to do tutoring, and it just didn't happen. A lot of the students did not want to stay after when they saw their friends leaving school. I think teachers would be willing to do it. We've had indication that we would have some teachers who would be willing. We've also talked about flexing the schedule to enable students to take more classes.
Well, that's the other thing too, with the AP and the band and orchestra and
Right.
choir and even career. Some of the kids can't even take career classes they want to take.
The high school did a survey, I'm not sure if it was this year, but 60% of the respondents said that they would favor a flipped schedule. And it was because of the afternoon opportunities. If you offered a late flexed period into the afternoon, they're not able to make some of the students who answered are not able to make their after-school appointments, whether that's classes, jobs, or extracurriculars. So that was their concern.
But there was an awful lot of pluses with what you were talking about with the elementary schools, with the Boys and Girls Club, the tutoring.
That's right.
And all that kind of thing. Plus, I think I don't know, you'll have to do your survey, but I'm thinking it may be an issue with parents.
Oh, I'm sure it would be.
Well, also, can the problems be remedied by tweaking schedules?
We think we may have an immediate answer for some of that, particularly the afternoon pickup or drop-off, whatever it is, making the connections in the afternoon. It's both drop-off and pickup, I suppose. We think we might be able to do that by adjusting the length or not adjusting the length, but adjusting the start of the day at the elementary. Right now, we have elementary students at some of the buildings coming in at 7:10. And they're sitting either on the bus or in the gyms until school starts as late as 7:50. Many of the teachers are there.
They're not on the bus that long.
No, they're not on the bus that long. They're because they can't be. The buses need to be running for the other routes. But they are there in the cafeterias, in the gyms, in the halls in many cases. We're thinking, and this came from one of the elementary principals, everyone's there. Let's just start school earlier. And now what it would mean is that parents who drop off their children by car might have to drop off their children earlier if we did that. In some schools, that's a bigger percentage than others. But that's a long-winded answer to your question, and the answer is yes.
Okay. Jeff?
I asked the question once before, and you said we had too many students, but is combining it to one route completely out of the question?
Until we have a lift of the circuit breaker, yes. We would need to buy a substantial number more buses.
Use all the assets for this secondary as it is, except for a couple spares. All of the assets are used in that secondary route now. So if you tried to combine with elementary, and many of them, especially the intermediate, are full.
So the secondary routes, the buses are full.
Especially intermediate, not so much the high school, but especially
Because I drive
intermediate.
around and see a lot of buses, and I see very few students on them, so. I just
That has to
wondered
do
if
with
we bought.
geography sometimes.
If we, I didn't know if we purchased, I didn't know what the total number, I mean, I know how many students we have, but I don't know how many students we totally transport, and I know we have 60 buses, so, I don't know, average, 60 per bus? So
Maybe
30 so
a little
36
less than that when they're bigger.
So say 3,600, so are we, how many are we transporting?
Over 3,000.
Yeah, and like, again, some of the issue is geography, and you only want your route to be an hour long or less. And so sometimes you cannot get a full bus in an hour with the geography we have to cover. So, yeah, there's lots of components.
Well,
to
it'd
that.
be interesting to see, of course, I know some, it probably wouldn't be very favorable either for, a first grader. Some parents may not want their first grader on a bus with a 10th grader, but I know I see a lot of high school students driving too, so it'd be interesting to see if we did do one route, would it require 3 buses, more?
I believe it would be more than that, and especially in some of our densely populated areas, we'd be crossing ourselves quite a few times.
Well, it'd be
especially Fairview
interesting to see if
neighborhood
that was an
especially.
option.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of districts, particularly the rural districts, do exactly what you're suggesting. In the district I was in before coming to Richmond, we had the one tier, and there are great advantages to that, but I will also tell you there are headaches, but not unlike some of the headaches we have here. When you're dealing with kids and drivers and weather conditions, you still have those. But the nice thing, if we were able to achieve what you're talking about, and in the best of all possible worlds, you had as many buses as you needed, we could probably run those routes in 30 to 45 minutes because the geography would be less. And it would be nice. What you find in a lot of those places, if you have a smaller concentration of older students, which you would probably have on these because you'd have so many more younger students too, you find some stewardship going on between the older kids and the younger kids. It's not as threatening as you'd think. And
I survived.
There are a lot of nice stories to talk about, but you also have students who pick up habits of older students, and parents aren't thrilled with that.
Well, I'm not sure of the total logistics involved. I don't. That's why I'm asking the question. I don't know the numbers.
It would require more. I don't know exactly how many. I don't think it would require a doubling the
Probably
number
not,
of
but
buses.
it would be probably a significant number.
Beyond our plan. What other questions do you have about that meeting itself? I do have another piece on this transportation.
I just, this has been, I'm not a native Hoosier, so I need to let everybody know that because I'm looking around this table and I think I see one other non-native Hoosier over there. Maybe there's one I don't know about. But this has been a pet peeve of mine ever since I moved here in 1974 because we're in the wrong time zone.
Wait for that, Marty.
And I know that we are really only supposed to grapple with the things that we control, and so I should just be quiet, but I need to say that. And the other thing I was looking at, because it's been something that's irritated me for so long, I have played with school schedules and start and stop times and everything, and I'm wondering about just the problem with moving everything a little bit later is the impact it has on our extracurricular activities and sports. And I think those things are incredibly important, and I always have supported them wholeheartedly, but maybe some of those things could happen in the morning. instead of in the afternoon. If you're not starting at the high school till 9 o'clock, maybe people come in at 8 or
They do.
7:30 to do, and I know they'd use the 0 hour now, but maybe they could find more creative uses for the 0 hour. I don't know. It's just a frustration I've had ever since I moved to Indiana.
I'm glad you spoke out about it. What took you so long?
Well, I didn't have a microphone before.
That's fair, honest.
If we could move on, in a transportation-related issue, I'd like to look at 5120, guidelines for 5120. And Misty Hollis has been leading a study for us and coordinating some work at the administrative level, and she'd like to talk to you tonight about some changes that we're going to be implementing on 5120 that we think will help in the transportation area.
Through the cabinet, and the administrative team, and through this conversation that we're having tonight, one of the things that we felt was important was to look at our administrative guidelines 5120, which has to do with enrollment, reassignments, and requests of transfers. As the year progresses, as we have acknowledged, our student population moves often. I mean, we can have a student move 3 times during a school year. And so that does have an impact on transportation. And so we wanted to look at that briefly. So in 5120, the administrative guidelines, I'm just going to briefly touch on probably more of the bigger impact pieces. But we did discuss it, and then we also took it to the principals, and so we've had feedback from the principals on this as well, and then we wanted to address it with you. The main pieces of this, we did adjust a few dates that are within that, but a couple of the pieces that would have the biggest impact is under the enrollment target and caps, which you should have a hard copy, and it is also on board docs in front of you. But enrollment and caps, I want to highlight one piece of this that we've added. We talk about the enrollment per classroom, our target, and our caps. Transfer requests will not be considered, as the seats between the target and caps are to be reserved for students in the student attendance area. So once that level has been reached, any additional enrollments will be determined by the superintendent, and that's where the original guideline stated superintendent, period. What we've added is and/or superintendent designee. There are times that Dr. Borf might not be here due to a meeting or being out of town for a conference or a workshop, and we want to be able to give that designee the opportunity to respond immediately to a school's need when we talk about that. And we also did highlight, and I don't have this highlighted here, we have had international student growth, as you know. That's one of the areas that we are welcoming students to our high school, and so we have a separate areas when we talk about enrollment fees that apply to those students. That's separate from this administrative guideline, so I just want to make sure you're aware of that as well. The next piece that has an impact on this is our procedural guidelines for the annual transfer request, and that is on, you know what, these aren't numbered. 1, 2,
Like
it's
4.
page 5. And that's under item E, and that item E says that requests will be considered after all assignments have been considered. Should there be more requests than there are grade level open positions, selection will be the following priority basis. Item 2, 3, 4, and 5 were already there. We have added this statement that students reassigned to another school in the previous year due to overcapacity of their school of residence. So basically what that is stating is that if a student was moved and they are requesting a transfer back, that we're addressing it based on whether they were reassigned, whether they were full in the building in which they lived, their school attendance area in which they lived. And then the last.
Can I ask a question there?
Yes, please.
So will the parents have to ask for a transfer?
Yes.
They will have to ask for a, okay.
We sure are going to request that that form be completed. And during the student-teacher conferences, the majority of our buildings are having those conversations with the parents, asking them, are you returning to our building? Because they need to know that in this guideline, they have a timeline they need to meet to let us know what their numbers
That's what I
are
was
gonna be.
wondering,
Mhm.
how are they going to know if, if they came into the system, later in the year
Right.
and there was not an opening for them. And so I was wondering how they would know that.
For one thing, when the students are reassigned and the initial conference is conducted with the parents are informed then that if they want to be considered, if they want their child to be considered for enrollment next year back at the school, then they need to put that transfer notice in place. So this would be a second reminder, if you will, at
Do we
parent-teacher
have
conference.
very many of those students?
We
Do you
have
know?
about 60 on
The
transfer.
60 was the last number that we looked at.
But how many students do we have that could not get into their home school?
That's the
60.
number. That's the
60.
number. And that affects transportation, because they could be living in the Elizabeth Starr district, but they're being bused because they were to Westview or Crestdale, or, so it does affect transportation quite a bit.
How many students not involved in ESA does it include?
Oh, I just use as an example.
Oh, well, because, we put that building at half of its capacity
Well, that's
for
a
its
good question,
programming.
Jeff. We can look into that.
There are
That's a really good
several, I don't
question.
know them off the top of my head, but there are several that are from Fairview to Vale or Charles to Vale, Crestdale to Westview, Crestdale to Fairview. There's
And
several of those.
We
too.
tried to set it up so that we had catchment areas, that if your school was full, then you could go to this school or this school, which made sense for the transportation department. But this is one of the impacts of having those targets and caps, is that we get phone calls every day from schools saying we have a family with a first and third grader. Where is there an opening? And we go school by school by school by school. We're really tight in almost all of our grade levels, and we end up, Westview is an option, at some grade level. So we are transporting a lot of kids.
But Jeff, that's a good question, and I'll follow up on that. And then the last caveat that we did add is that in our procedural guidelines for the annual transfer request, that RCS does reserve the right to adjust the placement of a student based on the lack of instructional time that might occur based on their reassignment and/or their transportation needs. And so basically what we're saying is, if we know a student is probably losing significant instructional time because of being bused, we're gonna take that into consideration and make that decision at this level.
Yes, I would hope that you would look at all the buildings for that, because I know that there are students that have to leave significantly early.
Yes, ma'am.
To catch buses, and that really cuts in on the instructional time.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Some of those have happened, though, because they may have moved once, but in the course of a year, they may have moved 2 or 3 times. So we're continuing to pick them up wherever they are, which was never the design in the first place. And so we have some really odd routes that are crisscrossing the whole community, and it is costing instructional time. We know, at least we believe, that a student ought to stay in the school where they start. We know that transfers hurt when students leave their buildings, but we don't know that they hurt any more than the loss of half an hour of instructional time every single day. So that's why we're reserving the right to adjust what we're doing with those students.
Do we have loss of instructional time at our 2 buildings that have programming that are considered open enrollment?
You're talking about Hibbard and
ESA.
And ESA.
we do have.
Yes.
ESA isn't as significant as it once was because we have several routes that are star routes now. And so there's really just a couple of schools that are transferred from, and really it's just a couple minutes that they leave earlier. Before, everyone was transferred from somewhere else. And so, yes, I would say that was the case. This year, there's actually star routes. And then there's a shuttle to
Right.
Charles and a shuttle to Vale. But those kids only leave a couple minutes. They're just like the first ones let out. So that's been dealt with pretty well at Elizabeth Starr. With Hibbard, I think they adjusted their schedule to allow for that. And
Well, I
again,
just want to make sure that if we're going to add in, you
Right.
reserve the right to adjust the placement, that we're not taking away the right for them to have the open enrollment.
yeah, the places where you have, I think, the most significant issue, this example, are those students that were, for whatever reason, the grade level was full at their home school. And then maybe the school that we've made arrangements to have an efficient transfer, that one's full at that grade level too. So now they're at, like I said, Star to Westview, which, as hard as you try, that's gonna be difficult to not lose some
But
time.
what you get into is that, let's say that a student started at Fairview, and we're trying to keep them at Fairview, but they now live in the Westview district. There's room there at Westview, but we're busing them now to Fairview. That's not a great example because Westview and Fairview aren't that far apart, but it's that kind of situation that might exist.
For a student, early in the year, we actually had 2 students that lived on the far east border of the Charles district.
Right.
And Charles was full at those grade levels, and so they ended up being transported to Vale. And so, obviously, there's some issues with transportation, so.
Do the buses that transfer the students to another, well, for instance, if a student is going to Fairview, but they live in the Westview district, do those buses pick up early?
In the cases where we have those that exist, they do. Vale is one example. We have a couple kids that they live in the Charles district, but they go to Vale. And the others, not so much.
I would just hope that as we're problem solving, that, that we can ensure that our
Why we brought it up.
students are getting the instructional, I mean, there's kind of an equity issue here.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
It's an unintended consequence of the caps and the targets, because while we right-sized ourselves, and I think we had to do that, and it was the absolute right thing to do, you do run the risk as folks move around in the middle of the year of a class level, a grade level filling up, and there's not enough critical mass to open, or maybe not enough space to open another classroom in that building. And so, and again, I think we had a really good plan. You partner, and we planned for transfers to border schools. So you plan for the overflow at Star to go to the border school of Crestdale, because those districts border each other. But if Crestdale's then full, then you have just another length of time, of space to cover. So I do think we as a board need to look at the things that you mentioned, our policies about the caps and the targets, and just think about it again based on what we now know to be the truth, which is the population doesn't always, while we have space in the district, the population doesn't always gather in the neatest places, so.
and we have to have some kind of guidelines that we follow for capacity issues.
Absolutely.
And so certainly, if we overcrowd classrooms, that's not beneficial.
Absolutely.
So we do have to have some kind of guidelines. It's just not always as clean as we would like for it to be.
But I like the idea of reserving the spaces for the folks that move in, that are going to live near that live in the district.
Well, and
I
that,
think
when-
that's,
that was really our intention
Yeah.
when we made the targets and the caps to do that. And somehow it kind of didn't happen.
well,
And-
part of the issue is on the first day of school, even though people register, you don't know who's actually going to come until they arrive. And so you don't want to turn anyone away based on the promise of their attendance, and start sending people away before you actually know how many are coming to your school. That's what started the issue, I think.
It is a problem.
I think
And we also talked to our principals, and my first question was, shall we raise those targets and caps? And that's not what they want. And we
Sure.
talked about that
Sure.
with some of the teachers, and same question and same answer. So,
Well, we need to be careful because the little 3-sentence phrase at the end that you want to add really can eliminate the cap based on almost any criteria. So, I mean,
But it
the
allows
whole
for-
purpose why we created the policy was we didn't want 30 students, 30 first graders, in a class. So just because it may create some conflict for us doesn't mean that, okay, in an unspoken area, let's accept 30 students into this first grade class. So we've just got to make sure that that isn't abused.
well, you also don't, I mean, if we're going to live just, what I've said is, we
Need
need
the
to do this
flexibility.
case by case.
Absolutely.
Because you have some teachers who would tell you right now, let me keep him.
Right.
Let me keep him. I know it puts me a kid over the cap, but it's not in his best interest, and for 8 more weeks,
Right.
what difference will it make? I can do this. Now, if it's the beginning of the school year, that's a whole different.
Right. Or the student
Story.
that moves in across the street from the school, but
Right.
because they're over the cap or at the cap, he gets sent to Westview, and now he's on the bus for 30 minutes.
Well, and something else that's come up that I don't think we even thought about was we had an instance where a school said we can't take this because we're over our cap at that grade level. But what they were is they were 2 over the cap in a couple classes and actually 2 under the cap in another class because students moving in and out. And they could have equalized their classrooms, but you aren't going to move a student in the middle of the year
Right.
from a teacher who's been with all year because they're over the cap and the classroom next door isn't. And so,
Yeah, that's
you know,
a good
by
example.
policy, they shouldn't have accepted another student, but they were 2 under the cap in that classroom. The teacher said, I want to keep this student, I don't want to lose this student. So, it just, all the things that, you try to put together the best policy you can, and then something comes up and you think, didn't think of that.
The only other last thing I would add is the importance that we remind parents that are requesting to go to a school because they like that school. They might not live in the attendance area, but the guidelines are specific that they would be responsible for that transportation of their child. And so we just need to make sure that we are letting parents know if they walk into a building, say, I might live over on the west side but want to go to school on the east side, okay, that's fine, but you're going to, if there is space and we meet our criteria for caps, they're going to be responsible for transporting the child there. So we just
Well, I
need to
think-
remind parents of that.
I think it also says to parents how important it is to pre-enroll their child or their children. And we need to somehow continue to let them know how important it is that they pre-enroll and to reserve a spot. I mean,
How
do
does,
we have enrollment? Do we
Well,
do that in the spring and then?
we do, well, especially the kindergarten rocks is really going to be different this year in that when they come in there, they will be able to enroll, not just speak up and say, please hold a spot for me. They will actually enroll. So that's going to help
That'll be great.
that case.
So how about the rest of the
Well,
grades,
the
though?
attendance survey that's actually being done right about now, right? Isn't that what, the timeline in here that I saw is really very, very important, because that's the first opportunity that schools have to learn about what the family plans, if the family's going to move, or if the family's got a new babysitter in a different school district or something. I mean, sharing that information sooner is always better, and is better for the families, because they'll have a chance to perhaps get their needs met better.
Now, how does this align with what's required from the state as far as the dates that we have to, because don't we have to publish dates on enrollments on when we can accept students from another district?
We do, yeah, and I don't think that that's going to negatively impact that.
Well, I was just looking, if I look at your guidelines for the enrollment of a student coming out of the district into our school system, it says the second Friday of September or enroll by January 31st.
It's ADM.
So, okay, but that has nothing, those dates have nothing to do with what's required by the state then?
No.
We just have to publish the date.
Uh-huh. Yeah, these are to coincide with our funding now for ADM.
We used to have one ADM count day,
Right.
you know. And so then there could be fees attached to a student coming outside the district into our district.
And I understand that, but I'm just trying, I can't remember what's the date that we have to, because I thought we had to formally
No, there
announce.
isn't a date. We have to decide our date and
What the
publish
date
it.
is.
We
Is that
could,
what
we
this
could choose
says?
whatever date we want. Some districts choose August 1st. You have to enroll by August 1st, or you can't come here. We just say that you have to enroll by ADM. The first ADM for first semester, or the second ADM for second semester, so that we get the funding.
I believe
But that process would take after our in-district students request their transfers first.
It's where they fall on the priority list.
Right.
Right, well, I just want to make sure if someone lives in Centerville and they want to come here, then they enroll July 1st, that they don't out-seat someone that's already in
They-
the district.
They're clearly on the priority list.
Okay, well, thanks. We'll look forward to a solution.
Well, let's hope we're talking about that, celebrating that at some point.
Okay, we're ready for action items.
Our first action item is to approve our list of donations, and we turn to Mrs. Scow for that.
Good evening. On a very much lighter and just as important note, the donations that we received this month are going to provide opportunities to our our students that leave a lasting impact. As you'll see by the list, we want to thank all of our community members for their generous and thoughtful gifts to the students of Richmond Community Schools. We had 39 donations this month, and an acceptance of those 39 donations is recommended. I'll go ahead and read them. Frank and Joyce Roberts donated to the Richmond Intermediate Football Program $10, and Jordan Law LLC donated to the same program in the amount of $100. And then you'll notice we have had a great number of donations to the Tim Lebo Special Education Scholarship Program at the high school. And I'll read each of those donors and the amount that they donated. Barbara Taylor, $30. Patricia Ravenay, $50. Jeffrey and Carrie Pacheco, $10. Scott Porter, $100. David and Ray Wolpe, $50. Dolores Safford, $50. Jimmy Lebo, $100. Ron and Bonnie McLean, $50. Elizabeth DeMeo, $25. Robert and Laura Stewart, $50. Troy and Marilyn Ingram, $50. Wallace and Eldora Workman, $25. Anthony and Elaine Michael, $25. Linda Shepard, $25. Ronald and Rhonda Christopher, $50. Lisa Ravenay Sinisak, $25. Carl Gay, $50. Dean Stevens, $5. An anonymous donor gave $10. Mystic Hills Golf Course gave $50. Eric and Sarah Coulter gave $100. Mike and Danita Lyons donated $50. Gerald and Louanna Moore, $50. Lawrence and Carol Sexton, $80. Charles and Gail Sharinga, $50. Bonnie and Tobias Koliker, $100. Ernie and Betty Lebo, $25. Glenn and Kathy Alexander, $25. Robert and Lynn Herklotz, $100. Larry and Beverly Miller, $25. Cheryl and Bob Little, Deborah and Clark Plasters, and Doris Bunker jointly gave $50. Nick and Barbara Wood, Kelly and Eva Wood, Wanda Wood, AJ and Chris Wood Jurgens, and Mark and Kathy Wood Williams gave $100 jointly. And then we'll move to Weston Bank, who donated $4,161 for the admission fee for the fourth graders at Charles to go to Flat Rock YMCA camp. Aaron's Inc. donated to Westview Elementary $600 so that they could purchase 2 Moby mobile teaching devices. Aaron's Inc. also donated to Hibbert Intermediate to the Life Skills program for their new playground, $500. And NetTech Corporation donated to the Technology Expo, $500.
Do I have a motion? Aaron Stevens makes the motion. Kelly Baumgardner seconds the motion. Comments or questions? Aaron.
You omitted one name, actually. Charles and Gail Sharinga.
She came back and picked that
You
up.
did? Okay, all right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next item is the required hearing for the superintendent's contract. And my recommendation is that you would conduct that hearing.
Okay, do I have a motion to close our regular business meeting and open our hearing? So moved by Susie Hively, seconded by Aaron Stevens. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. The hearing is now open. So, do we have anyone from the audience wishing to speak? Or anyone from the board wishing to speak? Okay, help me here. Do I close the hearing, or do we go ahead and make the motion to, or we're just doing the hearing, right?
I think
So the
the requirement is just to hold the hearing
You're just doing
tonight.
the hearing
Okay,
tonight.
just the hearing, okay.
And I think for the benefit of the public, it should be noted that the abstract of compensation has been posted and on our web as well as advertised in the Palladium item. So it's available.
I
Susie.
would like to say one thing. And maybe Mrs. Stewart, maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but isn't the superintendent's basic compensation unchanged, the salary amount, since
Current salary amount is the same as
when
when
he came?
he started in 2004.
And I just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you.
Aaron?
Nothing further. I move to close the public hearing on the superintendent contract and reconvene our regularly scheduled meeting.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, I guess, were you going to second?
I was gonna second.
Seconded by, see, I'm all out of kilter here. Seconded by Jeff Slifer. Now, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we're back in our regular meeting now.
Next item is compensation approval, second reading and approval of a compensation bylaw. The basic gist of this is that it adds a section to the compensation of board members. But in this, and if I would encourage the community to take a look at this, because in this piece, board members are to be compensated for goal attainment. They approve a strategic plan every year, and if the goals are met, board members would receive merit pay for that. But I think the interesting piece of this bylaw is that that merit pay is not paid to the board members. It's rolled over into the fund that we have designed for teacher mini grants. So the merit pay that the board members get goes directly to the benefit of teachers who are seeking mini grants for special projects, enhancing the instructional component for students. So it's a nice feature. I think it might be unique in the state, and I would recommend that you approve this in the second reading, and it becomes adopted at that point.
Okay, motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Kelly Baumgardner. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
The next item has to do with an initiative. It's a national initiative, actually. We were invited by the ISBA, Indiana School Boards Association, to participate in this at the national level. And they're basically requesting member schools, Richmond would be one, to support this by appointing a board member to serve on this initiative. My suggestion to the board, and you may talk about this and go a different direction, but my suggestion is that you appoint your president. Your president happens to be Linda Morgeson right now, but I'm saying approve it in such a way that the president, whoever is serving in that capacity, is the person who will serve in that capacity. Upon the election of a new president, you would have a new member who is on that committee. The point is that this committee member may be asked to appear at some meetings, maybe even the national meeting in Washington. I believe that's what they were suggesting. My point in recommending your president is that in almost every case, I can't think of a case where this hasn't been the case, your board president is somebody who has been on the board for some time. And my thought is that the board president would be well-positioned to represent the board in situations where they're asked to represent the school district. We talked earlier, and someone suggested past presidents might be suggested. The only problem with that is a past president may be going off the board. Your current sitting president, you know, is on the board and probably has some experience. So that's my thought. With that, I yield to the board discussion, and you may decide whatever you want.
Well, I need a motion, and then we'll have discussion. So, and if we choose to change the motion, I guess we can.
Sure.
So, motion
Like to make
made
that motion?
by Aaron Stevens.
I second that.
Seconded by Dixie Robinson. Okay, now, comments?
So what is the motion then, that
The motion is to
Board
appoint
President
your
Linda,
president
the president, okay, okay.
to serve in that
Okay.
capacity, representing Richmond.
That makes sense. Really.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, the only other logical choice is we appoint, and don't we appoint a ISBA delegate that is the legislative? So it kind of also parallels that, but I agree, you bring up a good point about, although in this case, both are seasoned board members, but I mean, you do bring up a good fact that the president would typically be a seasoned board member, so.
Any other comments, questions? Then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next item is approval of the Lightspeed web filter acquisition, and I turn that over to Mr. Tidrow to talk to you about that and to actually make the suggestion or the recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Borff. To provide the Richmond Community Schools a dynamic, flexible, and secure web filtering platform,
I am recommending that Richmond Community Schools adopt the Lightspeed filtering software. The total cost of the software and supporting service is $25,000 per year. Lightspeed replaces WebSense, which is our current web filter.
Okay, a motion, please. Motion made by Suzanne Darengowski, seconded by Jeff Slifer. Comments, questions?
What, how does it compare? Clearly, you were looking for something else. WebSense wasn't as flexible as you needed it to be.
Correct. WebSense was built more for the corporate world, Eli Lilly, places like that, Belden. Lightspeed's built for the K-12 education arena, and it allows classroom teachers to open and shut websites ad hoc or as they need it, whereas now they have to put requests in. It has to go up to our network administrators, and it might be a little too lengthy of a time, but this is a great flexible tool.
Good.
What about remote?
Right, it does provide a feature that if we would have devices to hand out to students, we could have those devices route through our system here and be filtered coming in and authenticated. So it's another nice feature that it has. So again, built for that K-12 arena. So you're right.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next item is from the Wayne County, it's actually a Wayne County Foundation grant application approval. Civic Hall is asking for approval to apply for the Improving Quality of Life grant from the Wayne County Foundation. And the grant application is due April 1st. The arts grant requires the signature of the school board president. Civic Hall is asking for a grant request of $5,000 for the Proudly Presenting series of events and educational activities sponsored by the Richmond Community Schools and Civic Hall Associates.
Okay. Motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Mr. Millis is going to recommend what almost seems too good to be true, but I'll let him explain that. The Kids
Yeah.
Read Now opportunity.
In light of the time, I'll shorten the presentation, but basically, we have a great opportunity and would want to recommend that Richmond Community Schools partner with Kids Read Now. It's a not-for-profit organization, and to approve a memorandum of understanding. I think as this thing develops, it would be great to bring back some pieces of it, especially a Joy of Learning and maybe one of the family nights. But what they are proposing is current kindergarten, first, and second graders would receive a book, 9 free books during the summer, and the purpose is to eliminate that summer slide. The people involved in this, Lee Blurry, who's the founder of One Call, and his wife, Barbara, is a teacher. They felt like they wanted to contribute their money as well as their efforts. So they have been kind of out in front of us, working with organizations in the community already. And I've told them to slow down so that we can approve it. And then we'll go full boat into this. But actually, they came to us because of the great things we're doing in reading. They read about our 90% reading, our efforts to have a great reading program, also our third grade academy, and they actually contacted Kirsten Phillips first. She sent them to us, and then we started working with them. So we're kind of excited about it. We'll see how it goes. I talked to a couple of superintendents in Ohio, and they are very complimentary of the organization and what happens with the students. And there's follow-up, and there's preliminary to explaining the program at a family night, and teachers help the kids select books. So I told them we'll do this as a pilot, and hopefully it develops into a summer every year thing.
Okay, we need a motion. Kelly Baumgartner makes the motion. Dixie Robinson seconds the motion. Comments or questions? How could it go wrong?
Thank you.
Putting books in kids' hands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next item, I'll let Mr. Millis deal with also.
I think all of us are aware at this point that we have partnered with Every Child Can Read, and we've made a proposal, and they have submitted a proposal as well. And their recommendations are very similar to the past. They do have one change that they would like to pilot this summer, and that would be to include 20 second graders. Again, the opportunity is great because of the low teacher and student. The count is 10 to 1 and actually 5 to 1 with an adult teacher to student ratio. Kirsten has stayed the duration of the meeting tonight. I compliment her, although she is working on her administrator's license, so this is part of it. So, but if she wants to basically come forward and talk about some of the ideas and plans for this summer, maybe some of the locations, and for those not familiar, probably be better that she explain it. And she's a Richmond Community Schools teacher and has run the program last year.
I'm glad you called her up here because I wasn't going to let her get out the door without coming forward.
I'm excited to be here. The difference this year would be the second grade pilot. We want to see if we can make an impact before they fail. With the iRead and the high stakes, we obviously want to still target those kids first, and they're the largest priority. But to see if we can make an impact with those kids who are going to third grade but maybe in like a tier 2, and maybe those kids who've been in a tier 2 since kindergarten and first grade. So taking a look at those, putting teachers in there who are very strong in phonemic awareness and phonics that can build those decoding issues that are going to directly affect comprehension in third grade. So that's the pilot, and if you have any questions about the pilot, this year's going to look similar to last year. We've got technology on board again, similar sites, more sites going on at Earlham. Same thing with breakfast and lunch provided and all the services that we provided last year. Colleges, Ivy Tech, IU East are on board, Arboretum, museums, same thing as last year. So,
Remind me again how you are going to select the second grade students.
that's something that we're still going to be in discussions about. I think with the implementation of Acuity this year, that's going to obviously help us at least have a standards based to see where the students are lacking for the coming year of third grade. Teacher recommendations obviously would be probably
reading.
priority. Mm-hmm.
With the star reading and stuff.
And star reading, yes.
Lots of data.
Anybody? Any? Susie?
Well, there will be a wide range of students, probably in terms of skill levels, who might conceivably be eligible for that pilot. So are you targeting kids who are closer to the bubble or kids who are further down the ladder?
I think for the pilot year, we should definitely target those kids who are closer to the bubble, and we have to be very explicit with those kids that we pick. And I think if we do make an impact, and I think we obviously have to follow those into the coming year. I mean, that's going to be the job of whoever's, if it's me or whoever the director is next year, that they watch those scores throughout the year to see if what we are doing is directly making an impact in the school year. So I think the bubble kids for the first year would be where we would start and then expand. Do we need to turn the academy into almost like a second grade academy to get them better prepared for third grade and catch them before they fail? And we're definitely open to recommendations on ideas too, on who to pick.
You might know more once an assessment is determined by the state,
Yes.
whenever that might be.
Well, I'd like to commend all the people who are involved in the planning of the program, because we've been talking about this from the onset of the third grade academy, that it should be rising students into the third grade. We have had this discussion every single year, and the idea that we're piloting a small group to see if that would work is just a very welcome step.
I think my transition from looping from second to third has really impacted my discussions with the board, because I saw that great difference of learning to read and reading to learn from that second to third grade. And I think that's where we need to look, definitely.
Well, thank you very much, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for your work and dedication, and
And your perseverance.
your persistence of staying through this whole meeting. Or patience, maybe I should say.
Thank you.
So, thanks.
I have a couple things to go along with our acceptance of their proposal. And one would be, we again encourage, highly encourage the hiring of Richmond community teachers. They have cooperated in that and would like that to continue. And also, our financial commitment would be the same as we proposed. That would be that the partnering organization will be reimbursed 100% of the first $30,000. Beyond the first $30,000 through $100,000 will be a one-to-one match. Total for Richmond Community Schools expenditures for Richmond would not exceed $65,000. So we combine summer school reimbursement from the state with some contribution up front, with obviously their raising of money. But we wanted to make sure that was.
Are the 22nd graders, are those additional?
Right now, we're looking at, well, it's going to depend on my read numbers, obviously, first.
We'll know Monday.
And then we were looking at 8 for 3rd grade and 2, but if that doesn't work out, it would be additional, depending on numbers from my read.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion. No, yeah, I need a motion. It's getting really late. Motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Jeff Slifer. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
The next two items have to do with our projects in the elementaries, thanks to the bonding that we did earlier, and I'll turn these recommendations over to Mr. Tidrow.
All right, thank you. The elementary schools HVAC improvements rebid bids were received on Tuesday, March 18th, 2014. The notice to bidders was published in the Palladium item on February 28th, 2014, and March 7th, 2014. Proof of publication is on file in the business office. The receipt of bid sheet is enclosed for your information. All bids and bid documents are also on file. Recommendation that the elementary schools HVAC improvements rebid bid is awarded to Quality Plumbing and Heating of Bunker Hill, Indiana, with a base bid of $974,000, plus an add alternative number 3 for replacing the central heating system at Westview in the amount of $254,000, for a total bid of $1,228,000.
Okay, motion for accepting this recommendation.
So moved.
Motion made by Aaron Stevens, seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. Comments or questions? Jeff?
Quality Plumbing and Heating, they were the firm that did the work at Hibbert as well, right?
That's correct.
And we had a problem with some of the equipment that, was that determined that the equipment that went in there, it was the manufacturer's problem and not the contractor's problem?
That is my understanding. Can I go to Mr. Mays for clarification on that? But that is correct.
Okay.
I came on board a little bit after that was in.
Oh, there's no excuses,
No
Mr.
excuses.
Tidrow.
I have talked to Mr. I have been part of meetings that Mr. Glenn Slaffer has been part of as well. And so I'm very confident that this firm can do the work.
Well, and you hear the rumors, and I just never knew how that finalized out, because I knew there was an issue there. So I just wanted to make sure that as they performed through that project as they should, as the
Correct.
contractor. I tried to go back and grab the data, and I couldn't get it. Now, this completes all of the projects in that amount that we went out and increased the tax rate for.
It does. It completes all of the projects that we originally bonded for. There are some funds that we have remaining due to good bids that came in a little lower than what we might have expected, and or had some good work on it that the costs just didn't come in quite as high, that we'll be able to repurpose for some existing needs that the buildings have. But yes, they are all of the projects that we had originally.
What's the total amount that you think you'll be able, or not precise, just a roundabout number that you think it'll be repurposed?
Just a second, I have that.
Well, I get both the new
I
ones
actually
tonight,
can
don't I?
probably have that precisely for you. We are going to have about 90 at Hibbard that we can repurpose. We're thinking to repurpose right at Hibbard. There are some needs that we didn't get, that were desired needs that are needs, but we maybe couldn't do at the time, that we're gonna repurpose those funds toward for that building. And then there will be minimal funds remaining. The elementary, the bids came in, and we're going to have to use a little bit of CPF money possibly to meet the needs on the total bid package. So there won't be any more funds at the elementary schools, but the high school projects are coming along and are going to be complete this summer, so those we'll have to see. But right now we're looking at Hibbard as having the remaining balance.
Thank you.
You have the Westview, oh, you haven't had the,
Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
Westview roof.
Thank you. The Westview Elementary School new roof bids were received on Tuesday, March 18th, 2014. The notice of bidders was published in the Palladium item on February 28th, 2014, and March 7th, 2014. Proof of publication is on file in the business office. The receipt of bid sheet is enclosed for your information. All bids and bid documents are also on file. Recommendation that the Westview Elementary School new roof bid is awarded to Shamblin Sons of Connorsville, Indiana, with a base bid of $294,862, plus add alternative number 1 for the gymnasium roof in the amount of $36,621, plus the add alternative number 2 for kindergarten roof in the amount of $24,829, for a total bid of $356,312.
Motion by Kelly Baumgartner, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Press conference. Anyone from the press? Keep on moving. Consent items.
Okay, I'll keep on moving. Request, we have a request to approve the minutes of our last meeting, a request from Human Resources, and we do not have an addendum at this meeting. Request from Accounts Payable, and a request for the filing of reports, which would be the monthly financial report. Those items I recommend the board approve under consent this meeting.
Motion made by Jeff Slifer,
Second.
seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public commentary. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? No, they're all home in bed. Follow up old business.
I see some, looks like artwork around the room. Can you explain what that's all about?
Well, actually, this week, some of us went to the high school, and there was a student forum. And one of the things that they were asked to do in their groups, which they did very collaboratively and creatively, was to make a picture about Richmond High School and the things that happen at Richmond High School. And so the students, there were about 30-some students, made these wonderful posters. And one of the things that we noticed that is consistent with most of them is they used "we are proud," "we are Richmond," "we are proud." And I think that I think we have what, seven charts and between all of those charts, I think they covered all of the great things that go on at Richmond High School. I don't think there's anything that they didn't think of. Anyone else want to make a comment on the student forum that took place this week? There were other board members in attendance. Susie?
I'll just, in the interest of time, say it was a wonderful opportunity to get to see those kids in action and hear the very thoughtful and reflective ideas that they brought forward, both for what's working and ideas for how to make things work even better. And I was very impressed with the quality of the discussion.
They were certainly using lots of 21st century skills.
Absolutely.
And thinking beyond themselves. I guess that's the thing that impressed me the most, is it wasn't just about them. They were taking it very seriously, that they were representing everyone at the high school, and I was impressed by that.
So it was a time well spent at the high school this week. And so that was a great opportunity for, I think, maybe for us just as much as for them. So, okay, superintendent and board reports, reflections, celebrations.
I would like to follow up, I shouldn't say follow up, alert the board that we're having some conversations. I'm having some conversations with Reed Hospital concerning Highland Heights. Where that will take us, I'm not sure, but they've contacted us and would like to have some conversation to carry on from where we left off several weeks ago. So I'll be coming back to you with some more information after that meeting takes place.
Suzanne?
I think we have to say at this table how well Richmond Community Schools were represented as the host of the semi-state. That is a mammoth undertaking, and lots of detail goes into making that work well. And I have to say, it was amazing. And we had just gone to it, we've been to the tournament the earlier week, and it didn't go as well there. And I think they need to be commended for the detail that they put into that, because it was flawless.
Well, now, this is what I heard when I was over for the student forum. This is what Mrs. Wolpe was sharing, that Tom Crean was in the audience and that he had tweeted what a wonderful job that everyone had done and what a wonderful host site this was, and the building was great and everything. So that was the excitement that Tom Crean had.
And there were several other scouts and coaches and dozens of media people and, visitors from everywhere, and the stands were full, and people were treated to, shuttles to get to their car. Those details make it that to the point where people, when they get to this place in the tournament, they want to be sent to Richmond, which is very cool.
Well, it's too bad that we couldn't have had this part when Mr. Bolser
And we
was
should have
here.
probably said
Probably
that
should
while he's
have.
here.
Didn't even
Because
occur to
I'm
me.
sure that he put in a lot of time and effort to
There were
organize.
tons of volunteers there in the,
I think they said 60 or 70.
We Are Richmond.
75 volunteers, something.
Everything from the
least.
bus drivers who were driving the shuttle buses to the people who were working inside and directing people to their seats, everything. I spoke with three separate coaches from the different schools. There's one I didn't get to speak with, but the athletic directors, everyone, they said this is a place that they would see should be a permanent venue for semi-state, and the fans from Bloomington, especially from Tech, and from Greensburg, and I'm missing the other school right now. All of them were just delighted as could be.
Garen Catholic.
Yeah, Garen Catholic. We're all just very impressed with this, and it looks like hopefully, we'll maybe get another girls and guys semi-state here in the future.
Are we financially supported for hosting
Yes.
these events? Okay, and I'm sure the community also, especially the restaurants.
rooms
I
and
would think so
restaurants.
too. It's a busy place.
Misty?
I know it's late, but I do want to just update you on something that you've had an impact on. You met with Senator Paul and Representative Cam regarding, and then we moved into Senator Paul sponsored Senate Bill 353 for summer study to be done. And I called today to find out where things were and how it all landed at the end of the session. Wasn't quite sure. And it went a little different direction, but I don't think it's completely over. Senator Paul moved, it was Senate Resolution 41, and the Senate Resolution 41 it's his official request that a summer study be established. Then there were so many requests of study committees to be established for the summer that they went ahead and did one comprehensive revision of our, for Senate Bill 80, of all of the summer committees. And so that's 106 pages. I didn't think you'd want 106 pages printed out, but if you want to go look up Senate Bill 80, you will see that it's still listed as a committee that would be reviewed. So the next steps for you would be, and for all of us, is May, June is when they will start listing out who the committee members are, and then for us just to do follow-up. I was told that's our due diligence, that we're the ones that need to be up and aware of that. They're not going to contact us, but we need to be aware of what's happening. So just so you're aware.
Well, we're going to count on you to keep us updated.
Keep you updated.
Yes,
I'll be
if you
honored
would,
to do
please.
so.
We appreciate you sharing that with us. Anybody else for the good of the cause?
Ring that bell.